Shive is kicking off here into the field. Oh, and Branch. That's a great job. What a great job by Zachariah Branch. Freshman to the house. 96 yards.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
So 1st and 10, Jadarian Price back in there. And he's got the handoff. Price finds the hole, and he's gone. Touchdown, Irish.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Falk kicks it, and McGowan, one of the fastest men in the SEC, receives it at the 3. And here comes the sophomore, Jaden McGowan. Watch out! 97 yards.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
So a big 4-minute drill coming for Louisiana Tech. Fake it to Moody. Blockmeyer delivers over the middle. Caught. Smoak Harris inside the 25-yard line. Goodbye. Touchdown. Smoak Harris takes it the distance.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Play action now on 1st down. Taking another shot over the middle of the field. It's caught. Touchdown, Notre Dame. Jaden Greathouse, the freshman. Perfectly there for Hartman.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Zachariah Branch. And there's the freshman's first USC touchdown.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. This Tuesday afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you for being with us every day you can be for however long it might be. Thanks to our sponsors. We appreciate you. Garrett Ross today behind the scenes as always. Levi Caraway, Emery Winter, Jack McKenzie, and Paul Owen is in the studio. The latest to join us as far as the 365 Sports internship.
Yeah, Owen's he's well-traveled. Seattle, Utah, a couple places he hasn't mentioned yet. He might have been doing a stretch. I don't know.
All right,
but, I mean, we'll talk about it. It's fine.
Owen, great to have you. You contacted me. It's been a while, right? Back a few months ago, and good to have you in the studio. Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina. I'm David Smoak, and again, this is 365 Sports.
Yeah, what's up, Owen? Didn't even notice you there. Craig, nice to meet you. You just used to having people sit there, so I walk in. I just thought it was Levi or something.
Yeah, it's always just some people that just kind of come in. You know,
Levi's next to him.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
You would never know. He never says a word hardly. Emery is not right now, but he's always a part of it, whether it's because they're in school or things they have to do, but we appreciate them all locked in. I got a couple of notes from Chris Karpman. He's going to join us from SunDevilSource.com on the Arizona State Bowl ban. He's got that more broken down with some release that he got from Arizona State. Also, 2 Hall of Famers. Michael Bishop, former Kansas State quarterback, will join us today at 5:10, and former Oregon running back LaMichael James, who I covered when he was a high school player up at Liberty Ilo High School in Texarkana. He will join us today at 4 o'clock. Also, Mack Rhoades and Paul's top 5 and Craig's off the radar.
I believe they beat Robinson for the state title.
Yes, they did.
And I don't know if that was his junior year or senior year.
I think it was his junior year.
Yeah.
They had a huge win in the playoffs at Longview against Gilmer in what was a shocking game because Gilmer, of course, was so good under Jeff Traylor. But we'll get into that with him. They're both going into the National Football Foundation, the College Football Hall of Fame. Waco's very own former Texas star Derek Johnson. We spoke with him when that list came out, but great to have a couple of Hall of Famers on the show today. Now, Arizona State, Chris Karpman will join us, and this is going to kind of go over, and by the way, nothing new with the ACC. They had to postpone the vote last night because of the shooting at North Carolina. I spoke with Matt Baker, great friend of ours. He's at the Tampa Bay Times, and I said, so is this going to happen? And he said, right now, there's more important things on the table, maybe not for some of the schools interested, Cal, Stanford, and even, of course, SMU. He said there's a hurricane barreling down on the state of Florida on the Gulf Coast, which is also could be the landing spot is in Tallahassee. But there's also a Board of Regents meeting for Florida State in about a week and a half, Matt said, and I'm sure they would like to have some clarification by then. So, and the season, again, full throttle with all sorts of games coming up this weekend. But he said it's there, but go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, if there's any Pac-12 tendencies still left in Cal and Stanford, then, there's Labor Day coming up. They can't get a deal done with Labor Day coming up. Yeah. I mean, there's Halloween right around the corner. I mean, it's, very busy. But no, I mean, there's legitimate reasons why this vote's been put off. I think the most obvious thing, and I saw on the way over here, and I wish I could recall who reported it, but it appears as though they might take a vote in a couple of days, is what I last saw, like within the last hour or so. But, I mean, it appears that the final results kind of a foregone conclusion. There's no way they're pumping up this vote for it to all just blow up in their face, right?
No, you can't do that.
No other reason to just continuously harp on the fact that there's supposed to be a vote, but because of outside circumstances, they just can't hold it, which is valid, especially given a shooting and a hurricane potentially displacing people. But yeah, I mean, I feel like they've kind of already tipped their hand as to what the end result is going to be, and it would be shocking to not see those schools voted in based on the way this has gone, because if that was the case, then I think this would already be a dead story, and the ACC would have totally put the kibosh on it.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Golly, I'm getting choked up.
Let me talk so you can get yourself all cleared up there. But when I was talking to Matt, I just reached out to him, and he's got many other things on his mind that he's covering. He said, I really haven't put as much thought into it lately, because he goes, I knew it was going to be postponed yesterday, and it was. It just all depends. And he said, I guess, in a way, maybe that one of the four schools that was against it, or maybe all of them, see there's a chance for more revenue. We've discussed this before. It would be great for Cal, Stanford, and SMU. He just doesn't know. He really doesn't know the end result. But if they go to a vote, they're not going to do it without knowing the result ahead of time.
I talked about this a little on the triple option before, but it appears to me, and this is what I worry about the ACC, everyone involved is making desperate decisions. SMU is desperate to be in the big time. Cal and Stanford are desperate to stay in the big time. Florida State is desperate to get out. The ACC is desperate to make sure that nobody gets out and drops them below the number where ESPN can take money away and renegotiate it. And there's probably teams inside the ACC that are desperate to make sure that the ACC stays what it is for as long as it can be. And that's why you're going to have this hodgepodge of a conference that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because people had to make desperate moves, because nothing makes sense right now in college football.
No,
nothing makes sense.
No, it's all out there. And, of course, thank goodness the games at least occurred this past weekend and more coming. Here's the Arizona State dilemma. This is what they did, and Chris Carpman will join us at 3:30. He was booked yesterday, as you could imagine. The deadline for a week to discuss the transfer, remember? Why couldn't they have done this earlier to allow players to leave, to go find another program? The deadline for ASU undergraduate student athletes to enter the transfer portal was April of 2023. So even if they had announced this in May or June, now there might have been waivers involved. The NCAA case involving Tennessee, which was particularly relevant to ASU's case, pending until the Committee on Infractions announced its decision on July 14th of 2023. In that case, the Infractions Committee imposed an enhanced financial penalty, $8 million, if you'll remember, in lieu of a postseason ban. It also required enhanced recruiting penalties, 40-week reduction of unofficial visits, loss of scholarships, 28-week reduction of communications with recruits, no communication. Arizona State believes that if recruiting penalties of the type set out in the Tennessee case were applied to Arizona State, such penalties would seriously impair Coach Dillingham's ability to build their football program. The self-imposed postseason ban helps pave the way for the program's stability and greater clarity going forward. That's how they summarized it from what Arizona State released and what Chris Carpman had earlier today.
Yeah, that's a lot of words. That's a lot of words for their reasoning. I mean, they have an explanation. Clearly, they have a reason behind the decision. It didn't dawn on me, and I give just random users on the replies in Twitter on credit for also pointing out like the odds of them going to a bowl game this year weren't that great to begin with, and I just wasn't even considering that when really talking about it yesterday. But yeah, go ahead and offer up the potentially lesser penalty, hope they bite on that, and then you're scot-free. But especially do it in a year where you're probably not making the postseason anyways. And so, hey, who says Ray Anderson's dumb and doesn't know what he's doing? But, yeah, I mean, I wasn't thinking about it from the standpoint of them not being eligible to even make it. I don't know how much they're actually thinking that either. I think they're clearly just really trying to get the least harshest penalty possible, and I can't blame any institution for doing that. But yeah, I mean, there's obviously other reasons in play for the timing and all of that. You know, I don't know what to expect from the Sun Devils as far as this first year under Kenny Dillingham goes, but he played it well, because even if, you know, it's really not that big a deal in the grand scheme of things, him reacting to it, you know, and the passion and all that got people fired up and got people on the Arizona State side of things, you know, revved up. And so they'll have that chip on their shoulder. Now it's built in of like, you know, the disrespect card that he can play as a coach and use. And so it'll work out fine. But yeah, they just won't have an opportunity to go to a bowl. And maybe that wouldn't have been the case either way. But if they do win 6 games or more, that in itself will be a big story. And then you can really harp on the fact that you should have been in the postseason. So unfortunate, but not the end of the world.
Couple of college football notes. One of them, Ohio State. Ryan Day and Ohio State have named their starting quarterback. It's Kyle McCord. Replaces C.J. Stroud, of course, who's now in the National Football League. Ryan Day announcing that McCord is a starter, has been in a battle with Devin Brown all throughout the spring and also throughout the summer and into August. And Kyle McCord will take over initially and perhaps, you know, maybe long-term as the quarterback with the Buckeyes.
Here's what I know about Kyle McCord. He'll probably be good. There is not in the last, since 2001, since Craig Krenzel, a school that has had less misses on quarterbacks. Even the guys who are kind of boring are good. Like Craig Krenzel, kind of boring, but guess what he did? Won a national title for him.
They've been so good that Joe Burrow left.
Yeah.
And ended up winning the Heisman Trophy.
So they've been so consistent.
Quinn Ewers.
Yeah.
Quinn Ewers is another one.
They've
There's
been
a
so
great
consistent at quarterback that you can't even, you know, really pick on them for a couple of guys that, all right, well, Todd Beckman wasn't that good, or all right, great, but he was still fine. They won a lot of games.
In the last 10 years, C.J. Stroud, Justin Fields, Dwayne Haskins, who the year he played, he was really good. J.T. Barrett was fantastic. Cardell Jones, who helped them win a national title because Braxton Miller and Barrett got hurt, and there was Braxton Miller also. Those are the last 10 years, the starting quarterbacks at Ohio State. That's a pretty darn good group that everybody would like to have.
Yeah, and so they also, Devin Brown is both really highly recruited guys, so one is more ready than the other, obviously, in Kyle McCord. Ryan Day's been really good at assessing who his quarterbacks are. Brian Hartline is one of the up-and-coming coaches in the country, at offensive coordinator, and they'll be fine. They'll be fine at quarterback. Ohio State is probably not going to be undone. And look, I'll eat my words if that's true, but they're not going to be undone by the quarterback or wide receivers. Those are usually pretty good. Right now, Ohio State's problem has been that Michigan's become the more physical team in the last 2 years and beaten them. And that, if that comes down to the same thing 3 years in a row, that's probably not going to be a different reason. It's probably going to be they just haven't caught Michigan up front.
Craig?
I mean, yeah, congrats to Kyle McCord. I don't think this means anything outside of he's a starter to start. And we'll see plenty of Devin Brown, I'm sure, at some point. And certainly if McCord's not able to go out there and just, you know, not only snatch hold of the steering wheel, but control it. So they've got an option if this doesn't work out to their liking. But, yeah, I'm not going to sit there and pick apart too many Ohio State quarterback decisions given recent history. Eventually somebody always, you know, trips up. You're not going to, you know, bat perfect. But Ryan Day's been pretty close to that. And I think that, you know, either way, they've got, like I said, a solid 1B there. So, yeah, they're not. The quarterback spot's not where I'm worried about Ohio State all that much, although it is, you know, somewhat of a question mark.
Who's had better quarterbacks in the last 10 years, Ohio State or Oklahoma?
Well, probably Oklahoma, but you're really, like, that's tough. I mean, they've got guys winning Heisman trophies. So,
of course, last year the injury.
But look, who's their worst one is Dylan Gabriel, who's still really damn good.
And Spencer Rattler at the end of last year played really well for South Carolina. They've even lost some. Tanner Mordecai obviously didn't get to play much, but also Rattler, who had a really good finish last year at South Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool. Those guys went off and did their thing, but I mean, the Heismans are what talk. I mean, it doesn't matter what the guys who didn't win them did or did not do or are doing. I mean, yeah, Mordecai's had success. Rattler's had success. We're about to see Chandler Morris as well at TCU. He was at Oklahoma. I mean, that's fine. That just goes to show you, though, really the talent they had that was there and was the starters and were the ones that stuck around. Those guys typically went on to win Heismans here recently. So, yeah, I mean, I think Oklahoma, you give them an edge, but, that's not to in any way poo-poo on what Ohio State's done, at the quarterback spot. But certainly, yeah, you'd give Oklahoma the nod right there.
All right, well, Nebraska, who knows what they'll do. They open up Thursday against Minnesota. Matt Rhoades today, and the story from earlier today, this is a young man who's had some trouble. Eric Gilbert, who was at LSU, went to Georgia, then eventually left Georgia to go to Nebraska. Nebraska's trying to find a way to get themselves back to even being competitive and maybe even bowl eligible, although that remains to be seen. Arrested earlier today without incident, carrying a bag of at a liquor and vape store. $1,600 worth of stolen items, vape products, etc. The police statement, the damage to the store is estimated as well at about $650. I could be flipping here. It's a serious deal. Eric Gilbert, obviously, Garrett, you put that in a text to us earlier, has had some issues. A phenomenal talent, first-round talent, five-star player out of high school. It's almost as if, man, Nebraska's starting to recruit guys like that. That means that's a pretty good deal, but he's not going to play for them.
And this is his third school. He's out of chances now, unless he's, goes the, lower level route. And I don't know if there's a coach who can get through to him. He's had a lot of issues. Some of his own making, some that maybe are just personal issues that people have. But yeah, he's it's a really sad story, and I do hope that he gets some help, because if your rock bottom is not robbing a vape store, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's a really bad look. It's unfortunate to see somebody who's clearly careening in life, given their immense talent and opportunity that many would die for. And, he's got it right there in the palm of his hands and has now on more than one occasion, and has, chosen to not do the best that he can with that. And now he may not have another opportunity, as you said. I mean, I could hear the way Paul said that about the vape store. And honestly, that was kind of my first thought as well, is like, you're robbing a vape store and that's why you're just going to throw your entire college career. Like, how about a bank, buddy? Like, I mean, can we shoot higher if we're going to make a criminal decision here? That just, speaks to, I don't know what exactly, other than just awful decision making and a guy who's clearly in a bad place for one reason or another, and to what extent, I don't know. But I'm like Paul, if you're sitting there with a college football career on the line and potentially millions of dollars, and obviously a lot of people with a lot of investments willing to invest in you because you have this God-given ability, and your mind's that, like, what can I do in the middle of the night? I'm going to go break in and steal liquor and vape, not even stuff that lasts, stuff that just makes you feel good temporarily and then kind of will make you feel awful after the fact. I can't wrap my head around that, and I'm sure there's a lot of other people that can't either. So just a terrible decision, and a bad ending, it appears, for Eric Gilbert, at least at this stage.
All right, so one of the stories in college football this year, Georgia trying to win 3 in a row. Minnesota won 3 straight in the 1930s. They almost won 3 straight in the 40s, but here is a list, and Garrett's going to put this up. I saw this. Pat Forty had this on SI.com. Let me explain what this is. These are the most recent schools who have had a chance to win 3 in a row. This does not include some schools that won a national title, did not in the middle, and then won another one the third year, because that would not be technically a three-peat opportunity the third year. Here are some stories. Here are a couple stories about this. First of all, Georgia, we don't know. USC on their way to winning 3 straight until a guy named Vince Young, after Lendell White was stopped on 4th and 1. Texas and Vince Young, we know the story, one of the greatest individual performances of all time in a moment like that, and UT and Mack Brown win it. So that ended their three-peat. In 96, Nebraska lost to Arizona State to start the year and lost to Texas in a Big 12 championship game. That ended their chance. They had won in 93. 93, 94, 95, and 97, but they did not win 3 in a row. In 1980, Alabama had won back-to-back, but lost to 6-3 and 7-0. And Georgia had a kid named Herschel Walker that interrupted their stretch. In 1976, Oklahoma, they had won back-to-back in 73, I think in 74, 75. Tony Dorsett, Pittsburgh ran the table. Oklahoma also was just 9-2-1. 72, Nebraska coming off back-to-back national titles. 9-3, Johnny Rodgers, but not enough. It was Southern Cal. USC went 12-0 to win it with John Robinson. 1971, UT had won it in 69, part of it in 1970. Lost to Notre Dame, Nebraska went 13-0. Texas that year was 9-3. Then there's also Oklahoma in 57 when they had that crazy winning streak, but they had a 7-0 loss to Notre Dame. Notre Dame in 48, they were trying to win 3 in a row, but they lost the opportunity when they tied USC 14 apiece. Army in 1946 had won back-to-back, tied Notre Dame, and did not win the national title. The writers gave that to Notre Dame. And in 1942, Minnesota trying to win 3 in a row twice. But World War II interrupted that season. In the 1943, someone else won the national title. So there's been great players, Herschel Walker, Vince Young, Tony Dorsett, others, and then also teams that were so close, but ties and losses by 3 points or 7 points that interrupted the opportunity to win 3 consecutive national titles. That's how hard it's been. Some really good teams have had that opportunity.
Yeah.
Alabama was the most recent, by the way, and then I think they had Florida State interrupted with 2013.
Yeah. But by the way, Texas and USC, like just comparing Texas ending USC's third one, USC doesn't get 3 in a row because of Vince Young, and Minnesota didn't get a second 3 in a row because of Hitler. Things were different in the 40s.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, so there's always something that might get in the way. And although Georgia is heavily favored, there are still some really good teams out there depending. And even last year, remember, they had to avoid the field goal with Ohio State to not lose that semifinal game, but they eventually dominated what they did to TCU in the final.
Yeah, and this is probably the best opportunity to ever have that happen again, because with an expanded playoff, I don't know if that's going to increase the likelihood or decrease the likelihood. I mean, it's hard enough to do that. Clearly no one's done it. But now if you're adding a couple of extra games against the likes of, let's say, any given year, Clemson and, Florida State, then add on the other 2 games that you would play or whatever. And, yeah, the chances of just year after year making it, your Alabamas, your Ohio States are likely to do that. Your Michigans, whatever. But to get through the gauntlet that is going to be, maybe it's easier because there's only going to be so many teams cut out for that. But then again, just the grind of it just leaves a lot of wild cards in the air as far as being able to do it and then do it again and then do it again. So that's only a feat that's going to get harder. If Georgia can pull it off this year, that will be rare air and really I think we've already spent a lot of time sitting down and praising Georgia and, what Kirby Smart's built and all of that. But, I mean, that would just be taking it to a level that's unforeseen. That, not even the greats that we talk about have even touched that rarefied air. So for this early in his career and just what already is built there, I mean, that would be pretty scary. So, yeah, that's certainly one of the bigger headlines or storylines, I should say, this year that everybody's, can take note of with some sort of interest is, can Georgia pull off the never before seen three-peat?
The ability, and like some of it's not even just the guys across you playing a better day than you have, but the ability to withstand the pressure of it builds and builds and builds as you get closer and closer to that third one or the second one. Like when you're trying to win a bunch of games in a row, you all of a sudden as the team, you don't want to be the ones who end this thing.
Right.
You don't want to end it. And so then when you look down the barrel of it happening when it's about to, I think that's almost what gets you more than just the other guys on the other side that day having a great day, is that you don't have anything left in the tank emotionally, and it just gets you because you're humans and it's really hard. And then now you just point into the fact that nobody outside of the Georgia fan base wants them to win 3 in a row. Everybody's going to be rooting against them for the most part. That's that might be the chip on their shoulder this year, but it's still, you're going to be in a lot of hostile environments, and it's just hard to get out of your own head when you move on down the line.
Yeah, it's just hard. There's a reason. 1930, 4, 5, and 6, I think it was, and then Minnesota came back and tried to do it again, interrupted by World War II.
Yeah, before we get corrected, I'm talking about modern era as far as
I get it. I get it. Chris Karpman, he covers Arizona State. Yesterday, of course, was a buzzsaw for him. He joins us next on what has been the reaction in Tempe. What is right now, how stable is Ray Anderson's job as the athletic director? We'll go over what we mentioned earlier. Thank you for those in the super chat and all in the chat room today. And this is 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental, Robinson, Texas. My dentist is Dr. Steve Childress. Proud of that because he has been fantastic in helping me understand my dental work more than just you wake up, you brush your teeth, you floss every once in a while. There's much more to that, and especially when someone like me has probably not gotten some things fixed when they were ready to be fixed or needed, it's a better word, to be fixed, and then you let that go because you're scared to go to the dentist. You know what's going to happen. You're going to get an injection in your jaw. There's going to be a chisel, whatever it might be, and that really scared me off for quite some time. And finally, I bumped into him during right after COVID, and went over there, had a dentist appointment with him. He said, okay, this, and this, you need to fix this in the next 2 or 3 years, and then this right here is something we're going to have to deal with at some point in the next 3 to 5 years. So let's get it done. And almost all of it has been done. Most recently, a crown in my back right lower jaw, had a cavity in my upper top, just a little bit in front of my left of my front teeth in the bicuspid, and more. He can do it. He's done it for me. And if I can go back to the dentist and have confidence, you can too. Dr. Steve Childress in Robinson, Texas.
During the Labor Day sales event, save big on a new Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited with $3,500 plus 2.9% for 72 months. Or a new Jeep Gladiator Sport with employee pricing for all plus 1.9% for 72 months and an extra $1,000 rebate. Or get a new Jeep Compass 10% off MSRP and no payments for 90 days on all offers at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Looking to connect with Baylor alums in your area? Baylor Alumni can help. Looking to host a watch party in your city? Baylor Alumni can get you started. Want to step out in your community and serve with other alums? Baylor Alumni is your connection with the university and each other. Let's get started. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
TFNB, your bank for life, is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Pioneer Steel and Pipe opened their doors in 1943, and they have never wavered with their focus on great product and customer service, relationships with a handshake, making sure you, the customer, is satisfied. Their new facility is now twice the size, allowing new inventory, higher quantities, and in a much more organized fashion. In addition to the long lengths in tubing, angles, channels, rods, and flat, Pioneer Steel and Pipe now offers several shorter, more convenient lengths of material already cut. Their 2,500 square foot showroom has over 1,000 new products in stock, new welding supplies, hardware, quickcrete, and do-it-yourself components for any project, whether you are a professional contractor or weekend warrior. The new facility is designed to make your loading experience faster and more efficient with easy drive lanes around the building and much more room to get your trailer loaded. Our location may have changed, but our values haven't, and our relationship with customers goes much farther than just business. Pioneer Steel and Pipe on Loop 340 and Highway 6 and just east of I-35 in Waco.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Chris Cartman, SunDevilSource.com, has had a busy last few, of course, weeks because of what's happening with the Pac-12, and now Arizona State a part of the Big 12 next year, and then the self-imposed bowl ban. He joins Craig and Paul. I'm David Smoak on 365 Sports. Chris, were the reasonings that I saw on your timeline earlier today on Twitter, is that enough, in your opinion, for what they did by the self-imposed bowl ban?
Well, they should have taken the bowl ban last year. I think it was pretty obvious at the time that they were headed toward having to have a postseason where they weren't able to compete. Like that, we knew that. Like I reported a year and a half ago that Herm Edwards personally participated in the impermissible recruiting on ASU's campus and other locations of multiple recruits, and the staff collectively more than 24 prospects, and they a former staff member paid for the travel of one of these recruits. Other prospects had their travel paid for by other people representing the program. I mean, there's a very significant amount of rule breaking that took place, and ASU was aware of all of this literally, a year and a half or more ago, maybe even 2 years ago in a lot of cases. And they, for whatever reason, they dragged their feet. Maybe they thought that they'd be able to wiggle their way out of this. But a lot of the decisions that have been made have just been terrible. Like, for example, they could have fired Herm Edwards for cause. And said they gave him a $4.4 million, which was half of his remaining contract. They could have tried to do what Tennessee did in recent months, which was pay a fine, a significant fine, $8 or $9 million by Tennessee, in lieu of a 2-year bowl ban. That was like the average SEC bowl payout amount. ASU could have taken the $4.4 million it gave to Herm Edwards and then tried to use that along with more rigorous sanctions on the front end last year that wouldn't have saddled Kenny Dillingham or his team and all these new players from a bowl ban. And I don't know for sure if that would have happened, but I mean, nobody thought ASU was going to have a good year last year, and they could have just done all this stuff last year.
Chris, what do you think this means, the way that this has been handled for Ray Anderson's long-term future in that job? He's had a rough couple of years, to say the least.
Right. So his contract runs through February of 2026. Got 2.5 more years. There's nothing right now that makes it appear that he's in jeopardy of losing his job. Now, I will say that I have heard from more prominent boosters expressing dissatisfaction and a desire to see ASU go in a different way with its leadership in the last couple of days than any time previously. I think people are fed up. They realize that giving him the benefit of the doubt was probably not the smart thing. And when you're trying to win and establish a foundation under a new coaching regime like Kenny Dillingham, you need money to flow in from your prominent boosters, both directly to your program and also in terms of NIL. And there's a lot of money that I think is going to stay on the sidelines right now due to the lack of confidence in the leadership. And that is a very serious thing. And perhaps if that becomes clearly understood by Michael Crow, the degree that this is impacting the program, how many boosters, how much money, I mean, there could be some evolution of perspective on his behalf. But he's been such an ardent supporter of Ray Anderson that I think I wrote like 10 months ago, Ray Anderson should have already been fired previously, and things just keep getting worse.
Chris, I think you kind of touched on it, but just to clarify, any idea, I mean, because the actual decision's still not out there yet, and as you mentioned, it's been an ongoing investigation, but any idea if this is something that's close and that's why they decided, hey, we might as well put it out there. And if you're going to skip a bowl game, if you were going to make a bowl game, you had to kind of announce that before the season, but is there any sign that the NCAA is close to their investigation being done with the Sun Devils?
Yes. That is definitely tethered to what just happened.
Okay.
Now, a lot of people know that for forever it's been you get a notice of allegations, then you respond to that, and then there's a process that comes to the conclusion of the investigation and the penalties. It's different now. ASU is in a bifurcated case. Basically, they make proposals to the Committee on Infractions that then either are viewed to be sufficient or insufficient to bring this thing to a conclusion. Tennessee's case took, I believe, at least 3 times of going back and forth over a period of months before they were able to come to the conclusion. But ASU already has had this dialogue with the Committee on Infractions, understood the serious nature of what has been found as part of the investigative process, and the self-imposing of a bowl ban is with all of that knowledge and understanding that wasn't avoidable, or ASU was going to have to pay some enormous amount of money try to get out of that bowl ban. And ASU doesn't have a lot of money right now. It's very significantly underwater, which ironically is due to a lot of decisions that have been made with coaches and buyouts.
So you made it clear in that I guess the way that the bullet points that the first thing I thought about, and we discussed this yesterday, is, well, wait a minute, this isn't fair to the players. They can't transfer. But they couldn't have transferred. The window was April of 2023. Well, you think any of them would have gotten a waiver had this been, let's say, announced 2 or 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, maybe even late July?
Well, I'm confident that some of them would have pursued that and tried. Yeah, it's true. Like the entering the transfer portal window had closed, but the NCAA committee on this has tended to give leeway when programs have sanctions. So the timing of it really kind of looks like they were trying to lock everybody in with classes already starting a week and a half or so earlier, and to be able to not lose players from their roster. I'm not saying that was intentionally what they decided to do, and I can't report anything like that. But that, of course, is how it's going to look. That's what a lot of people in the media have said. John Wilner and others I've seen have talked about the timing of this being really suspicious and something that is very negative for the athletes. And I can't disagree with that. It's just another indicator of how poorly managed that ASU has been through all of these major situations.
Kenny Dillingham was hot about it, and I thought his response was great yesterday, Chris, that you guys let us use. You just hired him. He's an alum. He's trying to make things great going forward. They've got this great news in that, I don't know if it's great news, but look, they got Jaden Rashada, one of the best quarterbacks in the country, to come. He's going to start the first game. They've got all this good news, and then here you have this bad news, and you've put your probably the most talked about head coach you've had in a little while coming to Arizona State, all this buzz, and you just rained all over it before he even gets started.
I mean, just terrible. Now, we had one video clip alone in one tweet get like 600,000 views in 48 hours. Which, I mean, that shows you, like, there's a lot of people paying attention to what's going on here. And he said he found out at 6:30 in the morning on a Sunday which was less than 2 hours before they practiced. Now that is really bad. Like it's the first practice of a game week. There's no way that they're going to go out there and have a good practice immediately after that. And so the timing of it certainly wasn't discussed with Dillingham about when they would release it, because he didn't find out until that morning. And that really is another sort of thing that shows a lack of consideration for all the perspectives that they need to be incorporating into their decision-making process. Let's just contrast this, if you guys want, with Kalen DeBoer at Washington's coach. He was so involved in the realignment that a lot of reporting is that he was the central figure, because he didn't want to not be on linear TV, that precipitated Washington and Oregon moving to the Big Ten. So that is a much bigger and broader thing that Washington's coach is very involved in. And then you have a new coach, Kane Dillingham, who doesn't even get told or asked or anything about any of this until he just finds out 2 hours before they start their first practice of their first game week.
And we know a new coach in Boulder, Colorado would have been notified as well if any major decisions like that were going on. So, yeah, that's something for Arizona State fans and Dillingham to not be too happy about, for sure. Chris, in terms of Rashada being the guy, the QB1 to start the season, just, I guess, what's been the reaction and what were kind of your thoughts? Was that a foregone conclusion at this point, or, how did you kind of break down that decision?
Yeah, so he joined ASU only a day or two before spring ball started. He wasn't close to the other quarterbacks in spring ball. And then even at the beginning of August, the first week and a half to 2 weeks of preseason camp, he wasn't even getting any first or second team reps, because it was Drew Pine, Trenton Bourguet. But then Pine suffered a hamstring injury at Camp Conazona in their scrimmage in the middle of the month. And all of a sudden, Rashada gets these reps, and then Bourguet had a really bad week subsequent to that, including a scrimmage that was maybe his worst practice. And Rashada's development was like leaps and bounds, really, throughout August. And then it was like, okay, like, what are we going to do? This is the most talented quarterback we have by far. Long term, like, he's going to be the guy. Should we just decide to throw him out there and go with him right now? And I think one of the reasons that the answer was a yes was he has a big play capability that the other options don't have. And then we saw that with his arm talent in yesterday's practice, where, I mean, it was like a howitzer was out there. It was the best practice that we've seen of any of the quarterbacks this year. He threw 5 or 6 long touchdowns, including 1 or 2 against the first team defense and several others against the scout team. And I thought that when they narrowed the playbook, he started to flourish more and more as they get ready for their games. And so the decision would have been a surprise like 3 weeks ago, but then the way that things evolved quickly between then and now, it became not really that much of a surprise.
Chris, perhaps this is a little bit too aggressive of the question, but Dillingham's pissed. I mean, he's livid, and he has every right to feel that way, but this is his first opportunity. Is there any way that this could damage his relationship with the school?
I think that's to be determined, really. You keep in mind, like, the things that everybody saw was right after he had basically yelled at the team for not competing as hard as he expects them to, regardless of the circumstances. Like, you control your own effort and your attitude. People always know that's something that's widely said. And he ripped them with that message. And then he came over and he was very angry because I think he just didn't want that to be the way that their first game week started. And presumably, like, the fact that he wasn't clued in or none of this was discussed with him also was upsetting. Now, he had some positive things to say about Ray Anderson yesterday at his first weekly press conference of the season, and said that his relationship has been good with him, and there's no issues, is what he said there as it relates directly with him. Now, maybe that's partly politics. Maybe that's partly trying to recenter after what had happened the prior day. I'm not exactly sure on that, but I do think that moving forward, it's an important relationship to watch. Dillingham needs a structure to be provided to him from the athletic department that creates an environment that makes it easier for him to be successful. And I think objectively, that hasn't happened nearly to the degree that it should. And that is one of the things that's led ASU fans and prominent boosters to be so unhappy right now.
All right, Chris, you've done a great job with both what was happening with Arizona State and what was going to happen with the Big 12, which it did, and then also with this story, too, involving the Sun Devils' self-imposed bowl ban. Thank you very much for your time, and maybe it gets to normal once they start playing games this weekend.
One can hope, and I appreciate you guys having me on.
Thank you. Chris Karpman. His video, the audio we had with Kenny Dillingham, as Paul mentioned, that was from him yesterday when Dillingham went off on the situation and how angry and frustrated he must have been and was, and for obviously good reason.
Also good to get some, details like what he had just got done doing. So he was already pretty fired up, but I would imagine it wouldn't have taken much to get him fired up based on this decision. I mean, it just seems like really badly run shop at the moment, or maybe really badly is too harsh. Arizona State fans can correct me. I don't know. I'm going to have a few people, I think, that side with me, though, based on just all the things that have sort of added up.
But you just heard him. I mean, he's there every day.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I'm just not like one to go like, all right, they're doomed, but it's not going great, guys. It's just not. And they could certainly do better, I think, especially when you talk about, sort of a new start and a new future that they're going to be embarking on here. And you've got a new coach, too. So, it might be, a situation that they get through and then, here pretty soon they realize that they need to make a move. But I don't know. It sounds like, he's obviously got his supporters as well. But this last few months have not been a great look, for sure.
No, and they are, there are a lot of athletic programs that aren't hitting on their full cylinder, and they're just one of those that continues to surprise. But, and got to start moving forward and doing things the right way, and they just haven't been able to do that. And I wonder. I wonder for Michael Crow and Ray Anderson the way that all the Pac-12 things went down when it comes to, all right, let's review, Michael Crow, like, okay, we had to make this 11th hour decision because you weren't really ready for it. Why were you in particular not ready for it? And some of your people in the other parts of the conference were. So
it would be a hell of a thing if the NCAA said, okay, we'll take your bowl ban and we're still going to fine you $8 million.
I mean, they could.
Yeah.
They absolutely could. I mean, Arizona State made a move to try and cut it off at the pass as best they could, like most other teams would do. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. And we'll see in their case. But, not only have these last few months, I guess, been sort of up and down, but I know it goes back farther than that. I mean, it goes back to Herm Edwards and just what a disaster that was, and one they're still clearly recovering from, and now, having to deal with while he goes off back to, the land of TV without any, real repercussions, which I think is a real shame in all of this, that, the freshman wide receiver gets a more of a harsh punishment in some ways. But, yeah, that'll be an interesting situation to monitor, and I'm really excited. I mean, I don't know how good they'll be, but I am excited to see just Dillingham with what he's done in the game and the excitement that he brings and obvious passion for Arizona State and Rashada. I mean, we've heard so much about him, so that'll be fun to see how that goes. But, yeah, it wouldn't be surprising if they have a bit of a rocky season.
All right. Thank you again for Chris for jumping on with us. Garrett, I just sent you an email. I'm not sure if you can get it up very quickly, but it's a part of the ACC story from Andrea Adelson from ESPN. An update on that. We'll get to that. Nothing like urgent, but it's different than perhaps we've seen with some of the momentum about what they're trying to get done. Don't forget, every night, 10:30 on the local CW, this show, 365 Sports Tonight, starts at 10:30. Emory will break it down into 4 specific segments, interviews and discussion, and that will be, again, every weeknight at 10:30. And starting this weekend, our pregame show will be, of course, on either KWTX or the CW based on their college football schedule. Here's the tweet from Andrea Adelson from ESPN. Update here. No current scheduled president's call out of respect for what happened at UNC. We knew that. Jim Phillips, the commissioner, is going to Dallas for the college football meetings, which is tomorrow. My understanding, nobody has yet flipped on adding Cal, Stanford, and SMU, but talks do continue.
All right, I just wondered this out of curiosity. Paul, you would know better than I do because I haven't gone out and searched ACC Twitter. And, we are directly involved, so to speak, with all that happened prior to that with the Big 12. I mean, that was right here in the backyard. So we are up to date on all of kind of the emotions that were also involved in talking to one of the athletic directors on a weekly basis. Are ACC fans like excited about this? You know how Big 12 fans were excited about like on the one hand, there's like Big 12 was excited because they just wanted to kill the Pac and get revenge in a lot of ways. So there was that added, emotion to it, and there's not really that here because I don't think the ACC is looking to kill the Pac. But are they excited in general about like the new addition? Do you get that sense at all?
No.
Okay.
I don't. And other than, if you're a fan of Boston College, you just want the conference to stay together.
Right. Yeah.
And you're excited, whatever you have to do that. But again, that just reeks of desperation, which doesn't mean you're on really solid footing going forward. It's like whatever we have to do to make this work, whatever we have to do. And that's never really works out well for anybody in the long run. And I do think that there are like some positives that will come of this that have nothing to do with football at all, but because it's going to force people into like really examining how they logistically do Olympic sports moving forward. But outside of that, outside of this being the test case for that very specifically, and maybe them being forced to do it before the Big Ten even would because there's less money involved, I just don't see any people excited about Stanford, SMU, Cal,
right.
Awesome. Now, had it been Oregon or somebody has some cachet, Utah, somebody who's won, now that's just kind of snobby fan stuff. But even still, I mean, and I'll just say this. If this was happening in the other direction where two of the ACC teams that were middle of the pack at best most of the time were all of a sudden going to the Pac-12, I'm sure Pac-12 fans would be like, all right, I mean,
cool.
If this is what we got to do, but I mean, I don't really care about, Syracuse and Pitt. It just.
Yeah, no, the emotions of the Big 12 and Pac-12 were because of previous situations and because then it became a turf war when it comes to silly things like even on social media, and it got ugly to the point where people were called a lot of different things, especially Big 12 fans in towns and cities and all that.
Yeah.
But
so
no,
I
don't see that here.
And all that, and not weirdos trying to pull that across and make that a whole thing, and then wondering why it gets personal after you call people a bunch of names. But that's something that's clearly missing here, and I feel that, but I don't know because maybe there's a corner of Twitter where like NC State guys like fired up about the Olympic sports or something, but I just get like there's just a flat line of like excitement over this for the most part. And it's out of necessity, and even when you hear like, well, all the other sports it's like. But what is that? That doesn't bring money, though.
We heard the North Carolina coach and the soccer coach, right?
But even the talk about like, well, hey, all these Olympic sports, and it's like, but the whole thing's about money, and those are money losers. Those aren't, money gainers, and so that's not as great as it sounds, other than just having bragging rights. But how often was the ACC going like, yeah, baby, swimming and diving title, ACC.
There's pride in those sports from certain schools, but you're right. As far as, and I would love to know. It would be neat to get like a feel for, let's say this Cal, Stanford, and SMU thing happens, and there is pro rata, or whatever that is, 72 million, I think is the number, minus whatever else is going to be that gets knocked off or lopped off the top. The breakdown, how many teams are in the ACC? 14?
15. Well, if you
Notre
count
Dame?
Yeah.
All right, well, Notre Dame, would they not get a piece of this?
See, that's the other thing.
I mean, we're talking about Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina.
I bet you that's something that might be hanging up Florida State and Clemson right now is, wait a minute, we're going to give Notre Dame some of this money, and they're not sharing
their money.
They're not kicking in for us. So
how it's going to, is it going to be $5 or $6 million for some, 1.5 million for others? Is it going to be 12 million for a couple? That will be interesting to see how that does break down, if in fact it ever gets to that point.
And on the note that you just, passed along there, good to have, an update that there's still something brewing. And I don't know, I feel like I should correct myself from earlier, because earlier I talked about, well, it seems inevitable because why else would you have this so publicly? Although, of course, there are the PR games that take place. And I feel like there was clearly some of that from Cal and Stanford to
Washington
some extent.
State.
No.
About this one, yeah.
Cal and Stanford in the Big 12. All of a sudden, the Big 12. No, they're not. No, that just seemed pretty unbelievable. And so that did feel like it was more of a PR move to maybe, gain some momentum. But, I now question myself because why would they so openly negotiate this if it wasn't a done deal? And then I realized, well, the Big 12 basically did this. they courted these teams, 4 years ago and talked very openly about their pursuit, and then in the end did nothing. Now, eventually they had to do something because then Oklahoma and Texas did leave, and so they had to go at Houston. But remember the whole courtship of nobody that took place just prior to that, where they're like, nope, we're just going to stay pat, and gave everybody blue balls from Houston to Boise State and, all points in between. So there's precedent, just here recently. So I guess that could happen, but I don't know. There's an awful lot of talk about it for it to not go the way that it appears it's going to go, but if there's holdouts, there's holdouts.
That's why I called Matt Baker to kind of pick his brain, and he really didn't know how it was going to go or why anyone would change unless, of course, it came down to some of the schools are going to get a little bit more and not just 2 or 3 million more. All right. When we come back, College Football Hall of Fame class was released earlier this year. 3 names that I've seen: Derek Johnson, LaMichael James, and also Michael Bishop. Michael will join us at the top of the 5 o'clock hour, about 5:10, and also discuss Kansas State. And then coming up, LaMichael James from Texarkana, Texas, Oregon, and partly with the NFL. He will join us next, and this is 365 Sports.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages. And if you can't make it to Riverbend, DoorDash is available to bring it to you. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is 365 Sports.
The Sikkim 365 app is brought to you by Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
It's always cool to see someone that you knew when they were much younger and they go on and have tremendous success. LaMichael James, Liberty Ilo High School, University of Oregon, of course, also in the NFL with the 49ers and the Miami Dolphins. He will be a part of the class into the College Football Hall of Fame, and he joins us. Greg Smoak, Paul Catalina. I'm David Smoak on 365 Sports. LaMichael, great to have you. I haven't talked to you in a long, long time. Covered you when you were at Liberty Ilo with the Leopards, but let's talk about the Hall of Fame. And I know it's been out for a little bit, but what does this mean to you? And thank you for your time today.
Oh, man. Hey, thanks for having me on. I always like to talk to people from East Texas. It's been tremendous, and thanks for covering me when I was at Liberty Ilo back in the corner of East Texas. It's a huge honor just to put East Texas on the map even more, in Texarkana, my high school, Liberty Ilo, and just show kids back home that, you can make it. You don't got to go to the OUs and the Texas. You can venture out and be your own person, and you can make way.
Now, you went to Oregon, and that is, one of the great college football venues and all that. But what was that like from a kid from Liberty Ilo High School to step in to that stadium and the first time out and like, oh my gosh, what is going on here?
Oh man, it was a culture shock. Just coming from East Texas, going to University of Oregon, I'll say Pacific Northwest. It is a completely different environment, just people-wise, football-wise, just everything. It's just completely different. But it allowed me to stay focused and just go out there and grind each and every week. And once you get in the stadium, man, you just try to block out everything. The first game, they always told us that we're going to look in the stands, and I always told myself I wouldn't. But, of course, I did.
LaMichael, you always hear about the relationships, and I know that's one of the pull when you're being recruited is the lifetime and the brotherhood and the relationship with the school and all of that. But you really seem to have been as much of an Oregon Duck as possible, and you rep the brand, and you're a great ambassador. And granted, I don't see everything, but it's clear that you made the right choice. But just how important is that to you that was something that lasted beyond your playing days and continues to?
Yeah, we play a violent game and play football, and man, we're all one snap away. And I always try to, pride myself on how I carry myself. And relationships are everything. Who's going to cheer for you when you put the ball down? You can't play football forever. Like I said, we're all one snap away. So I just try to be the best person I can be, and I just genuinely love good relationships because you can take those throughout life. And University of Oregon has done a tremendous job of just doing that, not only for myself, but other athletes. And I noticed as I was coming up through the ranks there, like how they take care of their own. If you need a job or you got alumni coming back and want to watch a game, no matter where it is, they always show love. And that just registered to me. And then here I am today.
I don't remember the exact timeline when Oregon put themselves on the map. They have a history in college football, but they jumped right smack in the middle of it. The uniforms, Nike, etc. What and how much did that impact Oregon and your decision?
Well, when you're an 18-year-old kid and you come from East Texas, you want to wear the swoosh. And this is not the first time I've had this conversation. I've been recruited by Mississippi State, Arkansas recruiting me. I just named those two because they were Adidas schools, and I was so against it. I was like, man, I am never going to wear Adidas. Because at that time, Adidas wasn't as cool. So when you go to University of Oregon and you got Phil Knight and you see everything is Nike, and coming from where I come from, you don't see a lot of that. So once I got there, 2008, it was like a whole different ball game. You got the cleats, the gloves, the headbands, the vases, and I was blown away by all of that stuff. And Oregon was my last official visit. And Oregon, compared to everyone else, at this time or at that time, everyone was laps away from Oregon. So it impacted my decision tremendously.
I'll never forget when you made the run. Liberty Ilo had won a state championship. Brandon Jones, I think, at the time was one of the stars of the program, and then you were there. Was Middlebrooks with you? Is that the same time when Will Middlebrooks?
Middlebrooks was my quarterback.
Yeah, and
he was 1 year older.
And you guys had a showdown games at Lobo Stadium. Eventually beat Robinson in the state championship and much more. But Just what was that like? Texarkana, I mean, Pleasant Grove recently has been really, really good out of Texarkana. We know about Texas High. What was that like to come out of an area in East Texas that was so hard to win titles?
Ooh, man, I just remember the grind. Because I originally came from Texas. So I went to Texas middle school. I was slated to go to Texas High, but I ended up going to Liberty Hollow because I didn't want to cut my hair, which is crazy because we talk about that right now. But I had like long braids and I was like, I ain't cutting my hair. So they made the rules. So I just went to Liberty Hollow. I knew a couple of kids because Texarkana was small. So I knew a lot of kids that went over there. So once I made that move, they were already a good team and they had a running back. And honestly, I didn't even know what position I'd play just because football wasn't just like a huge priority. I was just playing because I just wanted to play. So I get on the team in 8th grade. And then, we won every game. We won every game, 8th grade, 9th grade. And just that camaraderie with the guys. And once we got to 10th grade with the other guys, like we knew we had a chance, but that was one huge stop in front of us. Even like before the season, when all the books, I forgot what they're called now, the Earl Campbell's book that came out in the summer. Mm-hmm. Is that what it's called? They come out in the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, the day. Yeah. And I see, and it's like Liberty Hollow number 3 and Gilbert number 1. They're slated for a first round, match-in. Ain't no way around it. We make it, and we're going to play them. So the whole year, you're just thinking about that. Like you're playing to get in the playoffs, but like you got a good one coming up.
LaMichael, that state championship game, you beat a team here in Waco Robinson, and it was a fake extra point that won it for you. Do you have memories of that? Like that moment, those things that like it kind of maybe even spurs you on of like, man, that just the thrill of winning a game that way.
Oh yeah, he lined up on the wrong side, the holder.
Oh,
he like, I don't know what they were thinking. He lined up wrong, and he was like, "Oh, this is a fake." And I don't think it was, no matter what, if he even tried to kick, I don't think he was going to get that ball off. But I do remember that, and that's how we won the game. It was a thriller at SMU. Remember it like it was yesterday. Actually, I remember every game we played throughout that run.
35-34. Obviously, Gilmer, Carthage, teams like that were really, really good. What was, weren't you like just unbelievable in the game at Lobo Stadium against Gilmer?
Yeah, I remember it. This is why I know I remember you too, because I was going to Smoaky when I was in high school, and everybody picked Gilmer. And I remember I wrote it. And I don't blame him, man. Even watching highlights of, I tell people all the time, Curtis Brown has to be like the best football player I've ever played against in my entire life. He was that good. And that team was that good. And I remember just going out there on the field with him, and they're in a whole different wavelength. But, a lot of my guys had heart, and we played hard too. So just going out there and, having to play that game, I think it's probably one of the best games in East Texas, in my opinion, that I've been a part of.
Now the coach for Gilmer is the head coach at UTSA.
Yeah, Jeff Traylor.
Traylor. He's gone up the ranks. Was GJ on that team? I was trying to ask you that.
GJ was with Gilmer. It was
GJ Kenny.
Yeah. He transferred from Canton.
Right. Was he in that game?
And then he went to Gilmer. Was he in that game, or was he a little bit?
No, he was in there too. They had GJ Kenny. They had Snow. They had Justin Johnson. They had Curtis Brown. They had all the receivers.
Oh man.
They had like 11 Division I kids on that team. It was unbelievable.
Justin Johnson went to OU. Snow and Brown went to Texas. Yeah, they were absolutely loaded. GJ went to Texas initially. Yeah,
we had GJ on yesterday, LaMichael. If I'd have known, we didn't get a hold of you till today, but I'd love to have asked him about it. He's now the head coach at Texas State, and they're playing Baylor on Saturday in Waco.
Good dude, man. He's an awesome player too.
So, LaMichael, you accomplished a lot at Oregon, all Pac-12, Doak Walker Award, played for a national title in what was an absolutely thrilling game. No, you came out on the short end of that, but did you ever, once your career was done, think about, what was to come as far as honors and that one day, you were going to be a guy going into the College Football Hall of Fame? Does that stuff cross your mind, or, does that just kind of come out of nowhere and you're blown away by that?
No. You know what? I never chase memories, and I never chase goals. I kind of just let everything happen organically. That way, if you don't reach it, you're not upset. I just try to go out there and be the best version of me. Even with the loss, people ask me like, "Oh, you lost this game to like Auburn in the national championship. How did you feel? I'm like, you know what, man? Like, I went out there and I played as hard as I can. I gave everything I possibly could give that game that day. So coming out in the short end, sometimes it's like that. You know, sometimes you're just going to come out in the short end in life, but you got to keep persevering.
We have a picture. You sent this to me. You're an entrepreneur now, and Garrett's going to put the picture up. Killer Burger, and you are involved in businesses, and you kind of seem to enjoy this. Obviously, this is who you are now. You prepared for life after football and seem to be doing very well. How did you get into this, and how often are you always looking for something else?
Oh man, so I always was wanting to be heavily involved with Oregon. Did a lot of stuff with Nike, did some stuff with real estate. And then I was like, I want to open like a bar. Well, I don't drink and I don't want no 2 a.m. phone calls either. So I was like, maybe not do that. So then I went into this Killer Burger just in a random, I wasn't even in the city I lived in Oregon. And then I was like, look it up. And so happened, I just reached out and it went from if to when. And then it just kind of took off really quick. In a matter of like 4 or 5 years, I have 3 stores and never really envisioned owning a restaurant, whole different ball game. But here I am doing it. Sometimes I look back at this situation and it's much harder than football. And I'm like, wow, you really have 3 legit restaurants in a 4 or 5 year span.
Oh, I'm looking at the menu right now. I'm about to jump on a plane to Oregon. I'm telling you, I love this kind of like, just to describe to our audience that's not in Oregon or looking at this, you guys are like burgers, but you're not just like regular. You've got all kind of it's science here, right, LaMichael?
Yep.
And all these kind of different toppings and different ways you can get them. So yeah, this looks pretty interesting.
Yep.
Yeah,
it is.
So we do have to ask you, look, you're a Hall of Fame Duck, Hall of Fame Oregon Duck. That school is moving to a new conference. You played in the Pac-12. The Pac-12 appears to be done. How do you feel about that, you know, from just a long-term perspective as an alum?
The move?
Yeah.
I feel like it was inevitable. The Pac-12 has been, in my personal opinion, just been a little spacey. I don't know what really happened, but it seems like a leadership thing. I didn't expect it to go to the Big Ten, but, you know, with the landscape of how football is now, it's all about the coin, and, you know, it makes sense. Football-wise, it's easy, but then when you look at the situation of the whole conference, you know, it just seems a bit odd. A lot of travel, you know, what if you got like a basketball team having a conference game and they got to go to, you know, Wisconsin, you know, way over there. It seems a bit odd. I would have liked them to see it go to the Big 12. That seems like a common ground.
That would have been interesting, and I think there was at least that thought that could happen, but it took forever for finally the Pac-12, some schools to join the Big 12. Oregon and Washington, I always thought we're just going to hold out for the Big Ten, and they got what they wanted, and ought to be interesting. Man, you sound happy. Love the pictures you sent to me. Love the memories. I know you say you don't chase all that, but, man, you put up a bunch of them. As Craig said, the Doak Walker Award winner and so much more. Proud of what you've done, LaMichael, and where you have been and where you are now. It's a great story, and we appreciate you, and congratulations on the Hall of Fame. That is just fantastic.
I really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for having me on, and anybody out there listening, this guy is great. Always, you know, show love to my school and just was real about everything. And it's great just to show love back to East Texas. Such a great part of Texas, man. It's the best part, in my opinion.
Very unique area, no question. LaMichael James, Hall of Fame running back. He'll be inducted into a class that has just some massive names in it, including one we'll have on a little bit later on in Michael Bishop of Kansas State.
Yeah, he had an incredible career there in Eugene and, you know, not that far away from winning a national championship when you look back on that career. And, you know, obviously got a lot done from the Doak Walker Award, all conference, played in a lot of big games, Pac-12 champ, all that good stuff. So, yeah, definitely a Hall of Fame-worthy career, and he was a great player and seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders as well. And, you know, interesting, too, to get the reactions of guys on, you know, the Pac to the Big Ten move for those schools, and it's not going to be like the end of the world, you know. Like I think that all we're hearing, if anything's like, Yeah, I can kind of see that coming. It's kind of interesting to hear, like, oh, I'm not surprised or whatever. And so he had some semblance of, not a ton of surprise, but it's definitely interesting territory. And, I wonder, is he a future Big Ten Hall of Fame member? I don't know how that works exactly. But
do they do that like the SEC did? And
I don't know.
They wrap their hands around that.
Like
that win.
The SEC is about to claim like 7 new Heisman with Earl Campbell and
the
Jason
OU combination.
White
and,
absolutely. All these teams. Yeah, I don't know how that works, but certainly the Pac, when the last sentence is written on that, LaMichael James will have a sliver of that story for sure.
To me, whatever conference you were in when you won a national title, that conference owns the national title. They can claim it. They get it. No matter if teams move on, and who knows now with the scramble, it's like a Scrabble game with all the teams moving in and out of. But I can see where conferences eventually will, grab onto history from certain individual Heisman, et cetera, All-Americans. But it does seem a little bit, a little greasy.
Well, then again, though, I mean, I don't know that they're really bragging about national championships because, like, the Big 12 was like, we got 7 titles because of OU, because then the Big 8 could say, well, no, we got some, that's how it could also work. I mean, but if you're the SEC, I mean, are you really going to turn down being able to say that you added 11 national titles in football and 8 Heisman Trophy winners and all the rest of it? But no matter what, he's got a place in the Hall of Fame. So that's where you can find him, and certainly deserving after watching his career.
All right, when we come back, Baylor's Director of Athletics, Mack Rhoades, in the opening of the 2023 college football season. And this is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on. And thankfully here lately, I've, knock on wood, not had to be in a lot of touch with Richard Carr because my car's been working great. And the last time it was being worked on, it was worked on by the good folks over there. So months later, I can report no issues, and it's been driving like it never needed to get worked on in the first place. And that's part of the great customer service that they have over at Richard Carr. And that's one of the things that they can offer. If you need to get an oil change, you need to get your tires repaired, whatever it may be that you're looking to do to just make sure that you've got the peace of mind that the car that you're driving is working well and going to be safe for you on the road. That peace of mind is nearly invaluable. But if you are, in need of a minor adjustment or something more major, you can contact the good folks over at Richard Carr and their customer service department. They will get you good to go and back on the road. But if you are looking to actually obtain a vehicle, whether new or pre-owned, they are your spot as well. Right now, 2023 GMC Sierra 1500s are discounted thousands. Qualified buyers can finance for 0.9%. They've got dozens of Sierras on the lot, and they've got the inventory, but they've also got the price and the financing to get you in a new GMC Sierra today. Maybe you are more of a Buick person. Well, ranked #1 overall brand for new vehicle quality by J.D. Powers, Buick has a luxury SUV without the luxury price. You can save $3,250 on the new 2023 Buick Encore GX, and qualified buyers can also get 1.9% financing and no payments until 2024. So there's some new offerings, and if you're looking to buy pre-owned, well, they've got you covered there as well, with with dozens of vehicles under $25,000. Their financing philosophy at Richard Carr is 100% credit approval. They say yes when others say no. So whatever you're looking to do, get your car taken care of, buy a new vehicle, get a pre-owned vehicle. For 24 years in Central Texas, they've been the people that you can count on for your automotive needs. Richard Carr, run by proud Central Texas, proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
There are 20
26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don's Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Welcome back to 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Our weekly segment with Baylor Director of Athletics, Mack Rhoades, is brought to you by Edward Jones Investment Brokers, Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, Cam Heathcott, and Chuck Verno. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Baylor Director of Athletics, Mack Rhoades, with us most Tuesdays. If not, maybe another day during the week if we can. And he's always incredibly accessible. We appreciate his time. It's game 1, Mack, Texas State coming up on Saturday. A formidable team because of what they run offensively with G.J. Kinney, whose dad played at Baylor. Your thoughts about just what's it like around the athletic department during the opening week with so many, T's to cross and I's to dot?
Yeah, I think despite the additional, as you put it, T's to cross, I's to dot, I think there's just an additional pep in everybody's step. Everybody is excited. Certainly looking forward to the home opener. We also have soccer playing its first home opener when we think about La Tech and then volleyball versus Rice. And so it's just an exciting week to be around. And, this is, maybe the fun part of the job is looking forward to watching our teams, our student athletes compete. So I'm fired up. Can't wait to be out there for the game against Texas State. And you mentioned, Coach Kinney, and not only did his father play here, but he has a brother that's a walk-on on our team, and so there's some connection there. And you're right, he certainly has a history of a prolific offense, and we need to be ready to play.
Mack, after how much did you get to watch like new rules games last week, and what do you take away from what you've seen, if anything?
Yeah, great question. I don't know that I noticed much of a difference. Now, maybe you guys can educate me and inform me, but I haven't heard, in the aftermath of those games, how many less plays were run, or were there, less plays run. It'll be interesting to see, kind of what that will look like at the end of the year. But yeah, for me, I'm just thinking, Saturday, had some events, had Meet the Bears. By the way, shout out to all of our fans. I drove up to McLean, and I think I looked at the temperature in the car, and it was 106 outside. And I'm like, man, who's coming to this? And it was the concourses were packed, and our student athletes were there, our coaches were there. So just grateful to the Baylor family for coming on out. But anyway, so I did watch a little bit. I watched the Notre Dame Navy game, and it, again, just recollecting, I don't know that there was a huge difference for me. So, didn't get to watch USC and San Jose because that's on the Pac-12 network, and I'm not even sure, how to watch that, where to watch that.
You and many others, Mack. You and many others. But in terms of that fan experience and, being out at McLean, just in general, I mean, I know once the season's over, you review and you look at things that you can improve or change or whatever. And just what was kind of the thought process of heading into another football season? Was there, a to-do list in terms of McLean Stadium or things that you would like to see? Or when people show up on Saturdays, it's going to be about what they've come to expect, just the game day experience? How have you guys tweaked or I guess remained the same in that regard?
Yeah, Craig, I appreciate the question. I'm going to be really, really honest with you. I'm probably not in the weeds as much as I used to be in it, just given everything else I've got going on. But,
sure.
We got great staff, and, really appreciate all the work that Aaron Bean does in the space. And, there were, intentional conversations following the season and certainly leading up to this season. What can we do to make, certainly the pregame when we think about music and activation of video board, and then, some of the in-game stuff, again, thinking about band, music, how do we get in and out of in-game promotion, sponsorship items, recognition items, maybe at a quicker pace with more energy. And so, those are the things that, certainly come to mind for me. We need our fans. Obviously, the main reason is we're coming to watch our football team, compete on the field, but then, in between plays, timeouts, making sure that we have things that are capturing their attention and that they're high energy. And so that's really what we talked about, primarily is this idea of high energy and again, not a lot of lull.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that I really struggle. Like if there's lull, man, that's not good. And we'll probably have a conversation that next day with staff. So, but Aaron and her team have done a great job.
Game this Saturday night, Texas State. It's on ESPN Plus. Then you have the national game with Utah and the 11 o'clock kick. And I've had a few people ask me this. I really don't sometimes pay attention to the time until it's the week of, because of just trying to get through the first week and things we have to do as well. But the Long Island game is an 11 o'clock game. Chris Pesman at Houston had made a comment about he was adamant about trying to avoid as many of those as possible, especially right now with the temperatures. But there's no good time, I guess, with the temperatures. What was the thought process when you saw that was an 11 o'clock kick? And did you kind of try to maybe argue that it should be later in the day?
Yeah, so it's I appreciate the question because it's we are thoughtful now. As you know, it's rare when you get to control the game time. And so when you think about our 12-game schedule this year, we control the game time on two of them, right? The opener versus Texas State. And, you know, we were intentional about the 6 p.m. I think primarily, you know, some of it weather, you know, making sure that, you know, it was the best opportunity, you know, to get as many Baylor fans in. Now, with that said, quite frankly, when we've looked at attendance numbers, 11 a.m. versus 6 p.m. kickoffs for similar opponents, the difference in terms of attendance is almost it's almost nil. I mean, there are almost the exact same results. And so when we thought about, you know, Long Beach State, I'll just be honest, it was really, you know, more probably that game time with recovery and getting the game done with you know, in an early fashion, getting our student athletes to rest and to recover at least for half the day Saturday, knowing that we have UT coming to town that following week. So that was probably the primary driver for that. Was just thinking about, hey, you know, how do we best put ourselves in a position to play our very best, you know, that following week, our conference home opener, and obviously certainly a rival. So hope that makes sense. And you know what's interesting, you didn't ask me about it, but you know, if you know, if the Florida Utah game, right? You know, if we were, for instance, our home opener was a road game, we would have probably really pushed, you know, for that to be a different day, you know, and look to it to be early. The fact that, you know, Utah has to travel here. If they didn't have to travel here, we'd also look to move that game up because they play, as you know, on a Thursday. And so they're going to have a little bit more prep time than we will going into the matchup that second Saturday at 11 a.m. And so, you know, we talked about that. We talked about, hey, you know, do we move up? Do we move up the Texas State game? And if we had to travel to Utah, we probably would have tried to pull that off. So there's all of those conversations are going on behind the scenes.
Mack, now that you mentioned the Utah game, I mean, it is one of the hardest things that you have to do is schedule non-conference football games. It is maybe the hardest thing outside of hiring and firing coaches that you have to do because there is so much involved in getting it done. Now, of course, it's going to be a conference game next year, but to see one finally, like when you got BYU in here, when you get Utah and see that game finally come to fruition, like what is that feeling like as an athletic director?
Yeah, I wish they weren't as good as they were. No, it's. I mean, look, it's. You balance, right? You balance again, just really candid. You balance, competitive matchups, matchups that your fans are going to be really interested in and excited about, and then where your program's at. The whole idea of the competitiveness standpoint, the ability to win games, right? And how that impacts you, particularly in the beginning of the year. You know, I think our program's at a place where, you know, we can compete against, you know, somebody like a Utah national brand. And so, you know, I'm excited about it. You know, I certainly can't wait for that game. And yet, you know, we better be ready to play this Saturday against Texas State and make sure that we have great respect for them as an opponent.
This is a little random, and I think I meant to ask you this last week, and Gene Taylor's since commented on it, and Brett Yormark had commented on it before, but with all of the changes in the Big 12, I know the commissioner, you know, has talked about rebranding. That's not talking about a name change, right? Like I said, Gene Taylor commented and seemed to shoot that down. I think Yormark might have commented about that as well, but just wanted to get clarity and obviously your thoughts on that as well when it comes to the Big 12 rebranding, given all the new institutions.
Yeah, I mean, we have spent, as you can imagine, a lot of time in this space as a conference, having you know, all kinds of different conversations. And you know, at one point in time, you know, we talked about a complete rebrand, a new name. You know, how do we do that? It was interesting, you know, when we had that conversation, the four incoming, you know, the Houstons, the Cincinnatis, the UCS, and BYU. They were like, wow, no, like, I don't want you to change the name, you know, Big 12, because that has such great equity. And our fans are so excited about going into the Big 12. And certainly, you know, not the primary reason why we didn't, but it made us stop and think about that. So we've had a variety of conversations. And I think, you know, right now, pretty safe to say, moving forward, you know, it'll be more of what we call a refresh, that the name will remain the same, but maybe the look of the logo, maybe the way we treat the logo, all of those things will be different when we think about, you know, July 1, 2024 and the other four schools coming in. So, yeah, right now, I think we stay with the name Big 12, but it probably, you know, looks maybe a little bit different. You've heard, you know, the phrase used, maybe a little bit hipper, a little bit cooler.
All right, so I know that it just happened. It's fresh with Utah and the other schools coming to the Big 12, but you do have Utah scheduled also next year for a game there. Is that something where you've already had discussions on whether they'll be a part of your Big 12 schedule, or is that an algorithm? And then have you already had discussions on how you replace that game?
Yeah, so we've had conversations, you know, as a conference and internally, and you know, we've got a subgroup. I can't remember how many of us there are. There's, you know, 4 or 5 of us, but this subgroup of athletic directors that are really taking a look at football schedule moving forward. And you've got some uniqueness, especially when you think about, you know, the first 2 years that the four Pac-12 join us, right? You've got us playing at Utah in 2024, and then you've got Kansas State, Arizona playing in a home and home, so 24 and 25. And so how do we treat that? And I think, you know, the things that have obviously been discussed is, like, can you even get, you know, another opponent? And you know, for us, you know, that opponent would need to be, you know, Power 5, just to make sure that we adhere to the Big 12 scheduling policies. I think, you know, for Utah, you know, they're going to have to, the way their schedule is, they would have to look to try to replace 2 games. And so, you know, that's an option. You know, what do we do? Do we have an opportunity to replace the game, and/or, you know, do we play the game and that's just a game that's not counted as a conference game? And so those are all of the things that are on the table that we've talked about. And we haven't landed in any one direction, and probably won't for at least, the next couple months.
Yeah, North Carolina and Wake Forest did that a couple of years ago, where the ACC schedule spun out that two of these big rivals weren't going to play, and they said, "Well, can we play and just be a non-conference game?" And that's what they did.
Yeah, Paul, and I appreciate you saying that. There's certainly precedence for it. I think I told you that the only email that I received that maybe wasn't extremely supportive of the Big 12 expansion, the addition of the 4 new members, is I got an email that somebody said that it's now ruined their trip to Salt Lake City in 2024. So we'll see if we can find a way for that game still to happen.
If you don't mind, on a non-conference game, you also have Auburn. They have a massive stadium, 87,000. Obviously, Oregon's down the road. How often, if you do a home-and-home MAC, does the size of McLean Stadium come into play, or size of stadiums come into play when it comes to a home-and-home? Do some schools just want to make sure they're playing in front of the huge 75,000 or more? Because Auburn obviously accepted the opportunity.
Yeah, it's at least, since I've been here, and then, even my past experiences at other schools, it's never really been a topic of discussion. I think, for places like in Auburn and even, in Oregon, I think, they certainly want to play in the state of Texas. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that, Oregon, Texas Tech begin their home and home this year, and so it's never been a topic. I do think that people know and understand that when McLean Stadium is packed and completely sold out, it's a pretty tough environment to play in, and I do think people think about that, but. No, it's never been a hurdle for us.
As we enter this football season, Mac, there's obviously a lot of changes. Dave Aranda, whether it be staff or the roster, et cetera. And last year was tough by the end of it, especially. Just kind of what are your not necessarily your expectations, but I guess kind of that, just your feeling surrounding the football program as they get ready to embark on this new campaign on Saturday?
Yeah, I think, personally, and I'm not sure it really matters, where Mack Rhoades is, but I think personally, I'm in a really good place. I feel really, really excited, for the season. Really, really optimistic. I think you all know, I've said it several times, have great faith in Coach Aranda. I think he's a heck of a football coach. I think he's a heck of a leader. Certainly love the staff that he's assembled and has put together. I think some of the key areas where maybe we had some holes. I think he did a great job. The staff did a great job in terms of the transfer portal, and you've heard him say it before. The young men that transferred in. Like all of them, high character, instant leaders. I can see a change in Blake. I can just see it and hear it, and feel it. Just somebody that's more confident, more vocal as a leader. There seems to be more internal accountability. So maybe better leadership. Within the team, coming from our student athletes rather than in having to come from our coaching staff. I think it was a great summer. Really starting back in January of just, working hard in the weight room and really, really good preparation there. So, I'm optimistic. As you know, this is going to be since I've been here, I think this is going to be, the most balanced, the most competitive the Big 12's been. and so I think the margin of error, as usual, but maybe more so than ever, is extremely thin. Back in 2021, we won a lot of close games. The close games last year seemed to fall, a different way, and so we're gonna have to be able to find a way to win close games. And is that leadership? Is that maturity? I think it's all of those things. So, and I don't mind putting this out there because it's real. I mean, obviously we expect to go to postseason, and we believe that we have a program. We're building a program that should compete for conference championships on a regular basis, and so that's the goal. That's always going to be the goal, and that's the goal this year as well.
Mack, if you don't mind, I know you'll hang up when I bring up realignment, but or expansion. But are you monitoring, at least as a conference, what's happening with the ACC? Can that affect the Big 12 and the way you think about expansion? And Stanford and Cal, there was no way in, well, the word I could use, I'm not going to, that Stanford and Cal ever wanted to be a part of the Big 12, was there?
Yeah, so I think, absolutely, I'd be disingenuous if I said we're not monitoring it and not, interested bystanders. Now, I'm not sure that impacts us in any positive or any negative way. Quite frankly, obviously SMU a part of that mix in Dallas, and I certainly I hope for SMU that's a real opportunity, because I've got great respect for Rick Hart and the SMU program, and just wasn't going to happen in the Big 12. Just probably didn't need an additional Texas team. So and when you think about Stanford, Cal, Big 12, I just at some point in time the numbers didn't work when you thought about our TV partners. The pro rata clause was up to 16 teams, and so I think it would have been really difficult to add any additional without really some significant dilution to the rest of the membership. So those were all things that were obviously talked about, considered, thought through, and so again, where we're at the 16, I think we've landed in a great spot, and that's where we are for at least now.
Thank you, Mack. Appreciate your time. See you Saturday. Mack Rhoades, Baylor's Director of Athletics, with us on most Tuesdays on 365 Sports. I mentioned the comment about Auburn, massive stadium, 87,000. It's the 12th largest stadium in college football. I know Jim R. said massive. What about Penn State and Michigan? I know all about how the 100,000 plus stadiums, including one in Austin and also one that's in College Station. I get that, but 87,000 is still the 12th largest stadium in America, and as far as college football. So it wasn't trying to say they've had the largest, but that is a big stadium, and a lot of the SEC stadiums, there's a big chunk of them, of course, have that 75,000 plus.
Yeah, I think if you're 75K or 80 plus, then you're pretty, sizable outfit there. But certainly there's that 100 mark that a few of the teams, a couple you just mentioned, have been able to cross. But yeah, I mean that's still a significant chunk, and Oregon's not a big place. I think they're
54,
a little over
51.
Yeah, like 50, yeah. A little over 50.
Utah's about the same.
Yeah, so I think that Baylor's has got the capability to go a little higher, but they haven't necessarily needed to. I think had things stayed on track with Bryles in like 2015 on, they had just not skipped a beat. I think that maybe you would have seen the urgency to expand a little bit and take advantage of that, perhaps. But it's not a big fan base. It's just not
not a big alumni base.
Yeah, it's just not. So, not everybody's built to have 80,000 seats, much less 100,000, 110,000. That's just the way that it works.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it would have had to be like 20 years of like, man, we're selling out every game.
Yeah, to get additional 10,000.
They would have had to have played for a national title or in the at the time the college football playoff, which got so
they
close.
were knocking on the door,
Right
man.
there.
Like I don't think that playoff era. I don't think that would have been too crazy, honestly.
But 2 years later,
saw
all
it
hell broke
kind of
loose.
proof in the pudding last year with TCU, honestly, because there's a lot of resemblance there. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack from that. I thought his answer there at the interesting about we're definitely paying attention, but acknowledges like they don't need SMU. They don't need a school in Texas to add to what they already have there. But for the ACC, that's a different story. They don't have any Texas representation, but it sounds like the Big 12 is just kind of repeating what they have here late. Of we're always looking or listening, but not necessarily pursuing at the moment. And doesn't sound like Cal and Stanford really got too far down the road before that was.
I think he was
not
being
a possibility.
nice.
Yeah.
All I hope is if they do it, that before Florida State figures out a way to leave, that they send me to Dallas a couple times so I can just drive 90 miles and go see them.
Well, you went to Norman once and enjoyed it.
I also went to AT&T Stadium once and eventually enjoyed it, but I was white-knuckling that game the whole time that they played against Oklahoma State. So
when we come back, Craig, and Off the Radar, just after 5, former All-American and Hall of Fame, soon-to-be Hall of Fame college football member in Michael Bishop, Craig and Paul, both with their segments Off the Radar, then the top 5 in an hour. And this is 365 Sports. Texas Beef House. They're going to be at one of our games that we do a tailgate, 365 Sports, Sikkim 365 Radio. And they're going to be, I think it might be the Texas game at the end of September. They're going to be full throttle and helping us with a lot of what we do during the tailgating area on the Brazos parking lot, Brazos parking tailgate lot. Where's the best beef in Texas? It's your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. And it's raised right outside of Tyler in East Texas in White House. The Duvall family has done a fantastic job. If you contact them, go to TexasBeefHouse.com. If you contact them to buy hamburgers or brisket or steaks or all of it, use hashtag Sikkim10, and they will also give you a 10% discount on your order. It's unbelievable. You hear about Wagyu beef and how good it is, but then you also have that aged Wagyu beef that makes it even more special. When I have a chance about once every 2 or 3 weeks to talk to Samantha Duvall, who's in charge of their marketing, it is crazy good what they do with what they have. And in fact, Kim, I think Paxton, retired stockbroker, many of you have ordered at TexasBeefHouse.com. The starter grill pack, 8 burgers, 5 garlic sausage, 2 fillets, 2 strips, and also sirloins. And also, Samantha one time threw in a summer sausage for $139.50. It will be shipped to you. Someone asked me, can they ship to every state? I think every of the contiguous states, the United States, they will get their product to you. Raised on their farm in White House, Texas, Texas Beef House, TexasBeefHouse.com.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Sausage wrap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue. Next in line.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jeweler, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is a premier elite life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes every week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, bar, silver sneakers, and more. If you haven't been to Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness lately, you're missing out on the improvements. New flooring in the weight room floor and locker rooms, new paint and mirrors added to the weight room and group exercise room, and many new machines have been added and arriving constantly on the weight room floor. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new ellipticals on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, Alex Box, and welcome to Nathan Roach, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow. A kids club included with your membership, plus sauna, whirlpool, and tanning bed. 16 tennis courts plus a beautiful stadium court, and longtime youth tennis pro Britt Coleman and assistant junior Kenna. Adult tennis lessons and clinics with Blake, and the commitment to pickleball with 8 courts and instructor Jody Thurman. Visit the website at wacotennis.com or visit us at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
This is Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, presented by Alliance Bank. They take pride in making banking easy. AllianceBankTexas.com.
All right, welcome into 365 Sports. Welcome back, welcome in, what have you. It's time for Off the Radar. Tuesdays, Thursdays around 4:45. Take a look at a grab bag of topics or headlines from around the world of sports, and feels like we're starting to kind of get a little uptick in news going on. Not quite into full football mode where like there won't be enough time to be able to mention everything that's going on, especially after this weekend and all of college football opens up. But a good number of things to get to here. And today, notably, is NFL Cut Day. And with the new rules, we had some, kind of baby steps to get here. You drop from 90 to 85, and then a little bit of time would go by. You drop from 85 to 90, and then eventually about this time you drop from 80 to 53. Well, because of the rules in place now, you just go straight from 90 to 53. So as soon as the preseason wrapped up, some cuts had already been made, but a lot of them being made today. And for Baylor fans, I'll have a roundup, official roundup at some point in the next couple of days once all of this settles down. But there were a couple of notables, and Deuce Vaughn was one of those notables. I mean, I don't know how much of a shock it was that he made the Cowboys 53. They obviously raved about him in the preseason, but just to see that official was pretty cool. Yeah. Given you just never know, and given the size and all of that. But I think he proved himself well during camp in the preseason. And Paul, I mean, what are we kind of expecting as far as Deuce Vaughn and any role on the field during the regular season?
I think he's going to find his way to the second running back spot before it's said and done. I mean, Rico Dowdle is fine, and he knows the offense probably maybe a little bit better than Deuce does. But remember, he comes from a guy who's a scout in the system, so he's grown up around it. I don't think it's going to take him all that long. You've seen him play really well. He has game-breaking ability that even a lot of guys in the league don't have. He's a special player when it comes to that. So I think they're going to find a way to use him while they got him. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see him have a pretty significant role down the line of the season, because when they had Tony Pollard and Zeke, they used both of them. So now they have Tony Pollard and Deuce.
What happened to the guy that came in sometimes, is it Davis?
Malik Davis got cut today.
Okay.
They decided to keep Rico Dowdle, who I think they felt was a little bit more advanced.
Because I thought when Davis was in the game, maybe it was mop up or the other team was worn out, but I thought he was pretty good. But I get that rotation for the second and third team running back.
The Cowboys also kept North Dakota State running back, fullback Hunter Lupke. So that's exciting for fullbacks everywhere.
Yes.
At least for a week.
Yeah, for a little
least
while.
for a week.
Yeah, for a little while. But I mean, there's like way too much to try to unpack from all of the NFL cuts because, as I said,
1,500 players.
Yeah,
right?
it's a good number of players. But Deuce Vaughn was a notable. I also saw Max Duggan released by the Chargers, so that stint did not last long. Even though the whole NFL LA empire of two franchises seemed like they went just TCU crazy during the draft, and Duggan was one of those picks for the Chargers, but he was released. There were some other. I mean, Colt McCoy got cut yesterday, and that brought to a close a pretty lengthy NFL career for at least the time being. But I mean, he's 36 years old at this point. He's carved out a great NFL career for himself and made a lot of money. I'm sure made a lot of friendships and all the rest of that. But that was a notable guy cut as well. Clyde Edwards-Helaire in Kansas City.
Wow.
I mean, to get to the point where they just kind of interchange guys, it seems like.
He's a first-round pick. But Colt McCoy, look, the Patriots also cut Bailey Zappi today and Malik Cunningham.
Earl Campbell, a winner, right?
Yeah. So they don't have a second quarterback, and their other quarterbacks were both young guys. I would almost be willing to bet that Colt McCoy is the Patriots' backup quarterback by this time Thursday.
Okay. All right. I would think somebody would pick him up. He's would he be considered, first of all, we know how great he was at Texas, a journeyman quarterback, and there's guys that you'd rather have someone like that on your bench or on the sideline just in case, because at least they've been through that experience of having to play pretty quickly because of an injury.
Okay, I take that back. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I don't think he did actually get cut. I thought that was speculation. So
good.
Refrain on that. Sorry, no disrespect to your LSU guy.
I was wondering.
No, there's talk about it though, and that's why I came across the headline. There's talks about trading him and potentially moving on somewhere else. But yeah, I thought I'd seen that in double backing. I'm glad that I clarify there. But yeah, Colt McCoy, we saw that take place yesterday. Max Duggan, and there's a lot of others notable names, especially if you're scouring from a college football perspective. But Bailey Zappi's one of those. Yeah, you won the Earl Campbell Award, and that's an award that looking back on it, we could have just said who will be the best NFL player and done it that way. But that's not what the award's for. It's for who had the best year in college football, and so that year. I will say this, was not the strongest for Texas talent, but he put up monster numbers, and now you're seeing that offense in Lubbock with Texas Tech and Zach Kitley. But a couple Baylor guys that I'll mention here, just seeing them come down the pipeline. Denzel Mims, we already knew about that for the last couple of weeks, but Connor Galvin released by the Lions, William Bradley King by the Commanders. He had kind of just been hanging on for a couple years, mostly a practice squad guy. Galvin, yeah, I mean, big, tall guy, but
after his junior year, right?
Yeah.
Everyone was raving about him, and then I remember that conversation with a scout at one of the games early. They just felt like he never got big or strong enough, and that he didn't get drafted. Or did he get drafted? Did he get drafted?
No, he was undrafted.
Undrafted. He came off that great 21 season, but yeah. That's short and quick.
Yeah, so we'll see if he can't, find another landing spot. Mark Milton cut by the Panthers, Sam Tecklenburg cut by the Panthers, and they had already cut Bravion Roy, so you know what that means, right? The Panthers are free of Matt Rule Baylor guys as they got rid of the last two in both Milton and Tecklenburg. But, yeah, that was kind of the last of an era there. And Kalen Barnes, also a name that came across the wire. He was cut yesterday by the Minnesota Vikings. So there's more than a handful of guys already, and I haven't been able to keep track for.
Blake Lynch got cut by the Chargers.
Okay, he had just been picked up about 2 weeks ago, so that was a relatively short stint for him, and not all that surprising given that he had just been picked up. But, yeah, go ahead and throw him into the pile.
Ben Sims.
That's unfortunate. I was kind of hoping he'd be able to find a way, so that's a bummer. Well, that's another. Now we're approaching double digits as far as that goes, and I would imagine by the time we get done that there will be double digits of those names, and I'll have that at some point over on the website. Meanwhile, a little around the horn elsewhere, U.S. Ryder Cup captains get picked, and I know there was some controversy, kind of surrounding this, but Zach Johnson, the Ryder Cup captain, announcing that Brooks Koepka, Ricky Fowler, Jordan Spieth, Colin Morikawa, Sam Burns, and Justin Thomas will be a part of this year's Ryder Cup team. They also had the 6 that had already qualified, which included Scotty Scheffler, Xander Schauffele, Max Homa, Brian Harmon, Wyndham Clark, and Patrick
Those
Cantlay.
guys played their way onto the team based on points.
And had already qualified
Yep.
for the membership on the team. And then the names Burns, Thomas, Morikawa, Spieth, Fowler, Koepka, those were all captain's picks by Zach Johnson. So for those who don't follow, why the controversy here?
Well, because Brooks Koepka, of course, went to live, and the thought was you're not going to be able to play at all on the tour. But then the majors said, no, you could play in the majors, and he won a major. I also think Brooks Koepka earned his way on the team, even if there's the controversy of whether you went there. Like, there was no way in hell that Mickelson was going to be on the Ryder Cup or a couple of others. There were probably thoughts about, okay, Bryson DeChambeau was playing well enough. But Koepka, when he left, he really never took any pot shots at the tour. He was in a bad mental and physical state. If you watched whatever that series was, Full Swing, and then he won, and then he was good. And I just think that he probably did not burn any bridges. Not that you can't, but he didn't. I don't think he did.
Well, no, and look,
the other part of it was that Keegan Bradley had a great run this year, but Justin Thomas and Spieth together, or their Ryder Cup records, very impressive. And so, I mean, that's just one of those you go with your gut and your experience right there.
Yeah, I think also just, look, the PGA and the LIV are going to have to make peace because it's coming anyway, right? I mean, they're going to have to do it. This is a good way to start that. The guys are going to be back. It's all together now. And if you also want to win, you can have the best golfers going, right? And Koepka's that. So I as much as and if you watch, not a fan of the LIV, not a fan of anybody, chasing the money because of where it came from. But the fact is we are where we are. So you need to make it the best that it can be, or it's just going to be a pain for a long time when it doesn't need to be.
By the way, Grant Miller, I saw his name. Did you mention him?
No.
Yeah, he's also been released.
I haven't had a chance to go and actually look through all of the lists just yet, but I was planning on doing that sometime tonight or tomorrow once it kind of settles, because there will be stragglers.
And guys will be picked up.
I already told Grayson, I was like, I'm not going to have it done for tonight by tomorrow, because there will be, I'm sure, a couple of names. But although at the rate we're going, there might not be any names left to get cut here pretty soon.
Henry Black from the Colts.
Smith.
Yeah. Okay, well, there's half the guys that were on the list to begin with that we've just announced in the last 10 minutes are now not on the list anymore. So I will be busy and doing that. But none of the names that you mentioned are like Henry Black's hung around for a little while, and actually
Jamison Houston
done pretty okay. Jamison Houston's hung around.
Yep.
Abram Smith's tried to hang around. He's a running back, man, and that's just really difficult to stick in the league if you're not Bijan Robinson or Ezekiel Elliott or those types of guys, at least initially. So, that's a shame, and we'll keep track. And, if there's other notable names, and we'll be sure to pass those along, like, a Max Duggan, for example. Just a couple more notes here. By the way, just the preseason numbers, and we'll get into ratings more when college football really gets underway, and I haven't seen many of those trickling out from this past weekend. And then again, there wasn't a huge matchup, but certainly looking forward to what the LSU-FSU number draws this weekend. I think that will be interesting. It should be massive.
Oh, God, yeah.
But speaking of massive,
they were unranked last year when they put up huge numbers.
But speaking of massive, I mean, it is incredible how much people care about the NFL preseason. I mean, they're drawing 3+ million people for a game that does not really matter in the slightest, and acting as though it's the NFC Championship game sometimes. They're fired the blank up for this preseason action, and it's evident in the numbers as well. Saints, Texans, the preseason finale, 4.23 million viewers just for a preseason finale. You had the Hall of Fame game earlier, that kicked off everything. That's 6 million, so they opened with 6 million, closed with over 4 million, the NFL preseason ratings, and plenty of millions watching in between. But
it's undefeated, man.
It's incredible. I mean, it really is just the massive popularity of the Shield and that brand, and that's evident in even their glorified exhibitions, pulling in more viewers than major contests for various other sports leagues. But we'll leave it with this. This is very much off the radar, but on the field. Did y'all see the situation last night with Ronald Acuna?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Couple of
been
fans
a lot worse.
Run onto the field. Not the first time we've seen, a fan get onto the field in baseball or football or soccer or, the NBA even for that matter. All those NBA, their security is pretty tight, man. They don't let you get about a foot on the floor, and you seem to get wiped off there pretty quickly the couple times I've seen somebody attempt to do that. But in baseball, a bad look last night. Had the Braves and the Rockies playing in Colorado, in Denver, and the Braves are out in the field, and their super duper star Ronald Acuna Jr. sitting out there in the outfield, and based on the video that at least the one that I saw, the video pans to him all of a sudden, and there's a guy just clinging onto him, and there's another guy there who's you can't really kind of tell what's going on, and he's apparently security trying to pull off, and then another guy comes running up moments later, and he's trying to get a piece, not fight Ronald Acuna Jr., but it was hard, he couldn't have known what they were trying to do. For all he knew, they had a knife or a gun or something like that, even with security measures at ballparks. But not one but two guys get up close enough to him, and the security response was pretty slow, given
I thought it was too.
That there is this multi-million-dollar superstar athlete just at the mercy of two random fans, and he's all out there by himself. Eventually, center fielder comes over, tries to help out. Eventually, more security got over there. But that could have been bad. I mean, that's one of those that we just say, all right, nothing happened, you just move on. But if that's not a wake-up call for Major League Baseball in some form or fashion, I don't really know what will be, because that could have been a horror story. And both of those guys, as you can imagine, were arrested, but the Players Association has come out and is asking for enhanced player safety as a result. That follows a shooting that happened at a game just a couple days earlier than that. And so there's just kind of an awareness right now with Major League Baseball, and especially the Ronald Acuna situation of you need to take this seriously. And they got hands on this guy, and had they been of a different sort of mindset, this would have been a different story we're talking about.
I thought he handled it pretty well.
He's lucky they were just super fans.
Yeah,
he really is.
They just wanted to say,
he was like, okay, hey, all right. And then
it almost looked like, I don't know what it was like, but it was strange because luckily he didn't react violently, which he had every right to do.
When Hank Aaron hit his home run and the fans ran up on the third baseline, it was kind of like that, but it just wasn't that though.
And look, old Herb in right field really did not, he just kind of was like, oh, look at this guy.
Yeah.
All right, I guess, eventually he started trotting over there, but you gotta. Yeah, it's got to be better than that.
Yeah, it was a very slow response, especially not knowing what those guys could have been up to. So both men were arrested last night at Coors Field after the incident that took place. And he said that he thought that they were just out there asking for pictures. I really couldn't say anything because at that point, security was already there and we were already kind of tangled up, but security was able to get there. So he gives them credit. But, man, looking back, it took them a little while to get there. So scary situation, couple of arrests made, and hopefully that's the last we see of that for a little while. But there's a few things off the radar.
Thank you. He's trying to become the first player ever to have 30 home runs and 60 stolen bases in a season. He's at 29 home runs, 60 steals. And just having, and of course, the new stolen base rules as far as throwing to first, et cetera, the base being a little bit larger has really exploded. He's an MVP type candidate. Of course, Atlanta is fantastic. A couple of other names that Big 12 type related names: Kellen Mond, Malik Jefferson, Kiki Kuti, Greg Ward, James Washington, Shane Buechele also, and Henry Black were some of the names I just, as you were talking, that were also released today. And James Robinson, the former really good running back at Jacksonville, was also released today.
Did you say these were Big 12 names?
Well, I said most of them. Kellen Mond,
I was going to say he wasn't out of big. Okay, so I was making sure there, but. Kellen Mond, I mean, I don't think that's a surprise in any way. Malik Jefferson's kind of just been around. He never quite turned into the the Lawrence Taylor or, the like that you thought. I mean, he was a huge star in high school. But yeah, Kiki QT's bounced around quite a bit. Greg Ward has been
around for Philadelphia.
For considering his size and played quarterback in college and had to, convert to wide receiver, I think he's carved out a pretty nice little career for himself, all things considered. So, that's going to be interesting to see who else joins that list.
Good luck to them. They might be picked up, or again, they had a chance. They had an opportunity, and some of them played a couple or multiple years. When we come back, Michael Bishop, former Kansas State All-American. He's a part of the College Football Hall of Fame. We've had Michael on before about his life after football. He's next. This is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. Marcos.com. There's 5 locations in the Waco area. It is the fastest growing pizza brand company in America. There were none just a handful of years ago, and now there are 5 locations. Belmead, which is just off of I-35 on the east side of Waco. They're the ones who deliver to us. Also, there's China Spring, Hewitt, Robinson, and also in Woodway. Marco's Pizza right now, I'm looking at their page, unlimited medium one-topping pizzas. If you go online and use MED $6.99, just $6.99 each. The Magnifico lineups that start at $9.99 a piece and go up. The ultimate meaty pizza, and also, of course, even one with extra sausage if you want the Italian sauces. Boneless wings, savory sauces. You want some sort of a discount or a price going online, you can do that. They, of course, deliver to you wherever you are. If there's a Marco's Pizza nearby, they do. Bob Mock, the owner here locally in Waco, Marco's Pizza, Marcos.com. Pizza lovers get it.
Save big during the Labor Day sales event at Allen Samuels. Get a new Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited with $3,500 plus 2.9% for 72 months with no payments for 90 days at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends. Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing is time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Tracking down former Kansas State quarterback Michael Bishop. We are running about 6 to 8 minutes behind on the time we told him about, so hopefully we'll be able to get him on. So what they did in this class, this Hall of Fame class, my goodness, you could think about almost every one of these players. For example, it includes Eric Berry, the great defensive back at Tennessee, Reggie Bush, he's going into the College Football Hall of Fame, Dwight Freeney, Robert Gallery, the lineman from Iowa, Derek Johnson, LaMichael James, we've mentioned them, Michael Bishop, also Luke Kuechly from Boston College, Jeremy Maclin, who was fantastic at Missouri, Terrence Mathis, New Mexico, Bryant McKinney from Miami. I'm trying to get a Michael Stonebreaker from Notre Dame, Tim Tebow from Florida, all part of this class. Troy Vincent.
They're making him go in with other people.
Yeah, I know.
He doesn't have his own Hall of Fame
his
class.
His own little wing. Troy Vincent, Brian Westbrook, D'Angelo Williams of Memphis, just one after another. And then former Georgia Southern, Navy, and Georgia Tech coach Paul Johnson is one of those going in. So what they did today, they released a schedule of when they would be honored at their specific school. Derek Johnson coming up on Saturday. Texas and Rice will be honored. This is presented by Fidelity Investments. On-campus salutes. So they released that list, and so that is why I reached out to them to be a part of the show today.
And Michael Bishop will be the November 11th Baylor game.
You were looking at that list. I didn't even think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, so he'll get inducted during November 11th weekend against Baylor. So hopefully we can track him down. Off the radar obviously took precedence. You know, me was selfish with all of my time and my spotlight, so I had to bump the former K-State great for a few minutes. But no, in all seriousness, hopefully we can track him back down.
No, it's not that we're running late. We were running late anyway.
All you'll have to do, Craig, is you'll take you and him out to a football field. Mm-hmm. You'll both stand on one end zone, and whoever throws the ball further is right.
I would think Michael Bishop is probably could throw the ball as long as most anyone who's ever played college
football. What did he tell us the
football.
last time he was on, that he could stand on the end zone and bounce it at the 15 without a problem?
Yeah, very Hendon Hooker-ish vibes as far as like the urban legends of his arm strength.
Yep.
I know after seeing what happened to Kevin Hart, I'm not going to race anybody anytime soon based on the fact that I am approaching similar ages and definitely am not trying to tear like my groin off like Kevin Hart did recently, just sprinting against his buddy who also happened to be a former NFL guy, but still, I don't think that had to do with Kevin's body ripping apart. So yeah, I think I'm going to take it easy.
By the way, Paul Johnson, who coached at Navy, I mentioned, he's going to be honored with a couple of different on-campus salutes, including at a Georgia Southern game and also in October, 2 days later at Georgia Tech. We're now joined by Hall of Famer to be Michael Bishop, Kansas State great All-American, who will be honored when Kansas State plays Baylor, as Craig mentioned, November the 11th. The on-campus salutes released today. Michael, of course, has been a part of this show before. Love to have him on. Michael, as it gets closer, I know the Hall of Fame itself is great, but they've now given you the date, right? The game with Baylor on November the 11th.
Yes, sir. November 11th. It's going to be a great opportunity for both teams to play well against each other. You know, I got to pull for K-State because, you know, that's what I bleed purple, but at the same time, I know Baylor's going to be ready. I know Baylor's going to come in and put on a good show like they always do. You know, they've been on to put together a great team. But K-State as well. K-State is, you know, is a team that's up on the rise. They don't get the respect that they deserve, but they'll be ready to play. And for me, you know, going in there and getting honored as far as going into the College Football Hall of Fame was a great, I feel a great accomplishment for me. But I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that without my teammates and the coaches that supported me, you know, I wouldn't be in this situation. But to have two things go at one time, have a great game and then have a great reception, you know, I know the K-State people, you know, love it whenever I come back. So I'm gonna be feeling great.
You mentioned the lack of respect at times, and that is true. Kansas State won the Big 12 last year. They were fantastic. Coach Kleiman, what he's done. And yet this year they're not picked to win. Texas picked to win the Big 12. TCU, Kansas State, Oklahoma in that mix too. Do you is that kind of part of, unfortunately, being at Kansas State even in the Bill Snyder years?
Well, it's been like that for a long time. And, unfortunately, if you go to K-State, you know that would happen every year. But the biggest thing is you prepare like you're a national championship team. Week in, week out, do the right thing and let the chips fall where they may. I trust that because I know that if you get a group of kids that believe in themselves, anybody can win on any given Saturday. And it's all about doing your job. And I know that Coach Kleiman is going to have those guys ready to play week in and week out, especially November 11th.
On that note, Michael, we've had you on the show before, as Smokey mentioned, and I keep track of that stuff. So it was back in November of last year, right before K-State came to Waco and absolutely obliterated Baylor. And little did we know at the time that K-State was about to make a heck of a run all the way to winning the Big 12 championship. So since we haven't talked to you, I know it's been a little while since then, but just what was that like on your end to watch that team go on the run that they did, despite the Sugar Bowl loss? That's another thing, but just to go win a Big 12 title and do it in the fashion they did, how cool was that?
Well, when you're part of, I say part of an organization, when you're part of culture, you're part of tradition, you expect to win. It doesn't always go as you expect it, but at the same time, I am definitely proud of those guys that put on that Wildcat uniform because, like I said, a lot of people count them out. Even I was at the Big 12 game and there were people that, was talking to me, on both sides that, didn't know how the outcome was going to come. But me, I've always been, hey, we'll put it out in the end. I didn't know that it was going to come down to that field goal. But at the same time, I'm glad that it did because, everybody has to be accountable to do their job, and special teams did their job that week. So, in that game as well. So, for me, it's really a big deal because, like I said, I'm proud of it. I'm part of that. I'm part of that tradition. Regardless, if they win the Big 12 championship or lose to Alabama, I'm still part of that. So it's forever, created in my mind, my body, my soul. So regardless, I'm always standing up for K-State.
What was the most excited outwardly that you'd ever seen Bill Snyder? Because he's a pretty reserved guy.
Well, I told the story before. When we had the opportunity to play Nebraska at Manhattan, that was the most that I've seen him celebrate. That was the first time I've seen tears fall out of his eyes. That was the first time that I've seen him, be human. Because Bill is Kansas. And everybody respects Bill. Everybody has their opinion about Bill. Everybody has always seen that straight face coach type Bill. But I got the chance to see him be human, and for me, that was something I had never seen because he's always, he stays on us. He's always, do the right thing, reset, run this play again. Bishop, what are you thinking on this route? Why'd you throw that ball? Stuff like that. So I got to see him be human, and that alone for me was one of the greatest moments. Along with the win against Nebraska, I got to see him relax. I got to see him smile. I got to see him cry. I got to be in that moment with him, and that's something that I always remember.
Well, they were the 800-pound gorilla and had a lot of people had beaten up on Kansas State for many, many years. What was it about Bill Snyder? And they turned around. I think it's the greatest rebuilding job in college football history, and he actually did it twice at K-State. What was it about the belief, the dream, the vision that made you believe in K-State and Bill Snyder?
Well, he did a good job of getting young guys that didn't get all the glory in high school, didn't get all the glory in junior college, didn't get all the glory wherever they transferred in from. He was able to get those guys together and tell them, hey, you have an opportunity at K-State. I believe in you. I believe you make plays. You deserve to play on Saturdays. You deserve to play big-time football. And all we needed was an opportunity and somebody who believed in us. That's all. And once we seen that in Kansas State and Bill Snyder, we played, lights out. Whenever I really sit back and think about, I was having a conversation with one of my assistant coaches this morning, and I said, I really sit back and I thought about it, and I for the first time, I actually just sat down and watched the highlight from 97, 98. And I was like, man, we did some amazing things that people would never thought we would have done at that time. And so I know that the group of guys that Coach Snyder has been able to bring in during his career at K-State. Those guys were, they was nobody trying to tell somebody something. And he gave us the motivation, the dedication, everything that we needed to go out and perform on Saturdays. And like I say, I'm forever grateful because nobody else was giving us a chance. And we had that chance, and we came together and we played some good football.
Michael Bishop with us, soon to be a part of the Hall of Fame. Will be honored, in fact, when K-State plays Baylor later on this year in November with us on 365 Sports.
Did that surprise you when you had to, fight your way onto a D1 roster given your skill set? Or that, Michael, the last time we had you on, you told us you could still throw a ball, 80 yards in the air if you wanted to. Those things kind of stay with you. But was it weird for you? Was it hard and to deal with that when finally somebody like Bill Snyder comes along and says, "You're my guy"?
Well, it's funny that you asked that question because, we just finished practice. So at the end of practice, I just threw a 70-yard bomb to one of our receivers because he told me he cannot run my arm, so I still got it. But going forward, coming out of high school, I'm from Texas. Everybody knows about Texas high school football. I was on a pretty good team in high school, and we had, we had some great guys on that team. We had some guys that did enough to be in, to play D1 football, but nobody really was giving us a chance because we wasn't a big name school. We were a small 4A school, but we had great athletes. Nobody really gave us a shot. So when it came down to, me playing and baseball with the Indians and stuff like that, when I was given the opportunity to go to K-State, that's all I wanted. I didn't care how many quarterbacks was on the roster. I didn't care how many, Hall of Fame guys they had or how many All-Americans. I just wanted a good opportunity to go in and be able to do what I wanted to do all my life, and that's play football. And given that opportunity, the rest is history. And so, like I said, I'm forever thankful to have that opportunity because no one else was really giving to me because a lot of people wanted me to go DB, wanted me to play receiver, wanted me to even play running back. So I knew that I had talent, I knew that I had skills. I just needed somebody to believe in me as Mike Bishop quarterback. And K-State, took me in.
You went to Blinn and, of course, had a great run there with a national championship. Cam Newton went to Blinn and won a national championship on his way to eventually Florida, but Auburn. But you're also from Willis High School, and they have a young man and getting a lot of attention. Dad went to Baylor, and DJ Lagway, who's committed to Florida, and a great player at Willis High School. Your thoughts about that? Have you seen him play?
I've seen him play. I've been knowing the Lagways all my life. We grew up together. His dad was my running back in high school. Our families know each other. DJ is an outstanding young man. He's an outstanding football player. He's an outstanding quarterback. I think that his ceiling hasn't even been reached yet. There's so much more that I believe he's going to accomplish along his path. And my biggest thing is I pray that he stays healthy because a young man can play. He can try to play football. He's probably better than me. Probably better than his dad. So my hat goes off to him. I just want to see him finish, have a great year, take Willis to the playoffs. If they get to the state championship, go win it, get that hardware, and then go ahead and start his college career at Florida. I think that once he gets to Florida, I don't know how many quarterbacks coming back or who else they're recruiting, but he has to know that it's going to be a challenge. Nothing is given to you, but you have to earn everything that you get. And I really truly believe that he has an opportunity to go be a big-time player for Florida.
Yeah, and by the way, former Baylor receiver and a speedster, and Chris Platt, another young man that came out of Willis High School that's developed out, as well. All right, Michael, so K-State, defending champions, they aren't picked to win, but we will see you in November when you're honored on campus by, of course, the National Football Hall of Fame and Fidelity Investments. Looking forward to it. Always appreciate you. Are you still doing the daily Dave whatever it is on your Twitter feed?
I'm still doing it. I'm still hanging on, man. What's so funny about it, I think I mentioned this before, is that I meet all kind of people along my journey, my life journey. And the other day I was in my daughter got engaged, so I flew up to Kansas. So when walking through the airport, I'm thinking that this young lady wants to talk to me about K-State football, want me to find something. And she says, I follow you on Twitter. I love your post this morning. So that made me know that I'm still doing my service because I'm still blessing people. I just thought about putting a post out every day and didn't think nothing of it. But I'm glad that people are reading my posts. People are sharing my posts. They are telling me their experiences. They're telling me, this post, brightened my day up today because I was in this type of mood. And so as long as I can be of service and I can, there's breath in me to help out somebody, and it may be somebody in India that's reading my post. But if they're able to take my post and say, hey, I'm going to make it through the day, then my job is done, and I love doing it.
Michael Bishop, former Kansas State quarterback with us, who will be inducted into the National Football Foundation Hall of Fame with an incredible class. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We might try to get back with you sometime later in the season. We appreciate your access and also love watching you play. No question. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Go Bears. Go K-State.
There you go. Michael Bishop, former K-State quarterback. In that game, the A&M, that double overtime loss, Sir Parker caught the pass. Someone brought this up that, late in the game, there was a fumble. Michael was involved in a turnover. And that Kansas State team, well, how much would that have affected the Big 12 if they had won it in 98?
Oh,
how many times OU was involved, of course, in a chance. And, of course, Alabama and Texas in 2009 adding maybe 2 or 3 more national titles to the conference that they didn't happen.
Well, I mean, K-State winning one would have been game-changing for them and, for the entire Big 12 because all of a sudden it's not a battle of the blue bloods. And in some ways they would have taken a step towards, trying to become that more so than what they are. You win a national title, that puts you in a different stratosphere in football.
I'll tell you this. So they won that game, and UCLA beat Miami that same day. That put Florida State, who lost to NC State, in the national championship game against Tennessee that year. Chris Rinke was hurt and did not play against Tennessee, and that was huge for FSU, among other things. It was a close game. I think Kansas State beats Tennessee. Because of the way they were playing, they would have had the, no offense to T. Martin, but they would have had the quarterback advantage in that game with Michael Bishop. And coming off a Big 12 title, as tough as they were, I think they beat Tennessee in that game. I really do.
I mean, they very well could have. I mean, there's an argument to be made, but I'm not putting it back. I mean, that's the dude that I call Bad Mama Jamma. And I reserve that for the baddest of bad aces. And he is a bad dude. One of the, I guess, superstars of my childhood when I'm thinking about just the most dynamic, people think of Vince Young. Before that, you had Michael Bishop. Before that, you had Charlie Ward. You think that's the guys that I think of when I think of the growing up period and just the dynamic superstar athletes. And I didn't know any better at the time that hey, going and making it in the NFL is a little bit more of a different ball game, and I was always a college football guy. And Michael Bishop he's not going to ever be number 1 or number 2 because I've got guys like Tommy Frazier at the top. But and Adrian Peterson's up there for me, very high. But if you ask me, on any given moment of who are some of the guys you had the most fun watching college football growing up, Michael Bishop's going to be mentioned pretty quickly.
Yes, absolutely. Dynamic, dual threat as much as you can possibly be. Brian Etheridge just let me know Ben Sims has already been picked up in a practice squad, so that's good.
Okay, good
Craig's going to clear all that up with a long night of going through all the cuts and then those who have been picked up. No John McClain today, probably at some point either tomorrow or also on Friday. The chat room continues. Thank you all for being in there. A lot of discussion about every time. For example, Canelio, I remember watching Ricky Williams winning the Heisman in 98, who had an unbelievable year and broke the records. As Michael sat next to him, coming in second, it felt weird to me seeing how K-State had beaten the living hell out of UT by 41 a couple of months earlier. But, Ricky Williams in 98 was just absolutely freak show as how good he was. And breaking the record in the long run against Texas A&M. And Mack Brown had brought that up to us last time he was on the show.
Yeah, he was a stud. And then, you look at that, and Nebraska won 93, 94, 95. You had potentially a K-State in the 98. You had Oklahoma
Nebraska
in 2000.
97.
Nebraska, 93, 95. Wait, 94, 95, 97 for Nebraska. But then the potential that K-State could have jumped 98. Up in 98. You had Oklahoma 2 years later. And then multiple opportunities for them throughout the 2000s that, you kind of mentioned that earlier of if they just win a couple of those, if they beat LSU in that 2003 game, that was, I know Florida and Tennessee had won prior to that, but that was really the lengthy start of the Alabama and the Florida and all of those runs that followed LSU and LSU multiple times since then. But, yeah, a couple things go differently. And, K-State, too. That wasn't their only close brush with, potential national championship or playing for one. That's happened before. Baylor beating them, in the game that kind of set off the Bryles era. There's been moments like that where they are so close, and that's why, seeing what they did last year and just knowing that they've got a guy now who's going to come in and build and keep building this thing. In a playoff era, too, you just never know, but it's very exciting. And, they're a great program, but Michael Bishop was that dude for me growing up.
Yeah, 98 K-State. 96, like you said, Nebraska almost beat Florida State 93 in a great game with Florida State was heavily favored. Texas in 09, another one of those that got away. Who knows what would have happened in 08 when they went to the BCS down to the milliseconds or millimeters of numbers. When we come back, Paul Catalina and the top 5. Again tonight, 10:30, Sports Tonight on the CW, and this is 365 Sports. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco. I drove by there. It was at the end of last week. I didn't go in there to get cigars because I have some, but I did go in there to get Vitadreams. I've told you about the THC that my older brother Robert is using because of pain with what's happening with him. My second oldest brother called me about it because his wife has a hip that's bothering her about the THC product. But I've been taking Vitadreams now for probably a couple of different years. I remember Ashley kind of suggested that. I'm one of those that it's hard for me when I lay down to shut everything off, whether it's things to do or just let my brain just kind of cool off a little bit. So I started taking the gummies, the CBD Vitadreams. Went in there, I'd run out, went in there, got myself a bottle, and they have it available for you. Yes, cigars, all the accessories for what you do if you smoke cigars. But THC product, CBD, and so much more. Ashley, Cheyenne, and Carol, great people. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in between Richland Drive and Valley Mills in Waco.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
It's another time to speak with Samantha Duvall from TexasBeefHouse.com, handles the marketing and someone that you will talk to a lot when you do call for the great product of the Texas-raised Wagyu beef. It's college football season, tailgating, it's a big deal. People love to put beef and pork and chicken, etc. on the grill. Let me know what you have.
We've got everything. If you've got a morning game, you can get our breakfast sausage or our bacon. You can tailgate with some breakfast tacos. If you've got an afternoon or evening game, we of course got our hamburger patties. They're half-pound patties, 4 patties to a package, and we even have jalapeno and cheese patties. They're amazing. They'll blow your mind. Just that extra flavor, not too spicy. They have a high-heat cheese so they don't melt on the grill, and our patties don't shrink up on the grill either. Anytime you order, use our code SICK'EM10 to get 10% off your order of $100 or more.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House, unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu from our pasture to your plate. That's Samantha Duvall, TexasBeefHouse.com.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Welcome back. Top 5 benefits to ACC expansion if they do it. And some of these are some long bombs I'm throwing here, but there are benefits to it. It just makes a little less sense than some of the other ones because it's a move made of desperation. Before we get to that, I'd like to thank our good friends at UPN who have supercharged our internet here. And if you would like to know more, go to UnitePrivateNetworks.com. The fantastic, we had a minor glitch last week and found out it was on our end. It wasn't their stuff, but they were the first people to tell me that our stuff wasn't working and to restart it as opposed to waiting for 20 minutes on hold. So if your business internet is letting you down, UnitePrivateNetworks.com. Top 5 benefits to ACC expansion. Number 5, staves off the Super League for a bit. Like, at least if you do it, it staves it off for a little while. If the ACC doesn't expand and crumble, you might as well just start, carving up, what the Super League is going to be, 32 or 44 or whatever teams make it in and negotiate their way into that.
By the way, nothing new has happened. There have been reports that there's still not enough votes, and then again, they're still trying to get through it. But this is if, in fact, it occurs.
Yeah. And as last word, that really the North Carolina shooting, and now what the incoming hurricane in Florida, like all of those are, I guess, wreaking a little havoc on the timeline. If that's certainly I believe that with the North Carolina incident, because that did push back what otherwise was going to be a vote yesterday. But it'll be interesting to see how quickly they wrap that up, and if it doesn't go through after all of these postponements and there's inevitably going to be a vote, and then they don't vote that way. That's what I'm fascinated to see. Was there somebody who just refused to budge and didn't allow this to happen? But I guess, what would you lead? 51-49 that it's happening, or would you go stronger than that?
I would lead a little stronger that it's going to happen.
60-40?
Yeah. Now look, I'm of the belief that I think NC State is the holdout. Okay. And I think that they are with North Carolina because right now those schools are trying to do the Arizona State thing where they are in lockstep. But ultimately, if it came down to it, North Carolina is not going to make sure North Carolina State goes anywhere with them if they were to leave. So I think North Carolina State eventually flips because they have to make sure. Now look, NC State's got a really good athletic program. Really good. They're good in most things. Have they won national titles and a lot of stuff? No, but it's hard to win those, and they're a really good program. So they got to make sure that they're in a spot, and I think that they'd be the ones who would flip back. But the thing I brought up last week is who are the other holdouts that don't have to be public about it?
Right, yeah.
So they might have more people to convince.
The story has been there's a block of 4. They mentioned them, but it could be a block of 7. It's not sure who else is not on board.
Because when it comes down to voting in anything, whether it's college football or politics, you can play both sides against the middle for a long time before you actually have to make a decision. So Miami could actually not want it, but then when they were asked, be like, "Oh no, cool, we're fine," knowing that there were 4 schools that had already been kind of publicly against it for the time being. Number 4.
Well, hold on. I want to comment on this.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I mean, it does. It's not going to probably slow a lot of the momentum, but it does, at least stop some of it. There's still, I think, always going to be this push out there, this idea out there for the Super League, but I don't believe you can have a college football Super League without having Florida State in it or without having a Miami in it. That's just me. I mean, I think if you want to call it elite or call it something else, but Super League, I just think a Super League includes FSU and Miami. I know North Carolina can be debated. I don't really view that from a football perspective. I wouldn't include them in a Super League, but I understand that it's a bit more than that. So, yeah, I agree that there's not a true, authentic Super League if there's programs like a Florida State that are not a part of it.
Yeah, so it does stave it off for a little while, but we'll see. Number 4, more money for existing members. So there will be more money. Will it be as much as they want? No, it will not. And they're putting most of it appears in the performance pool. The other thing that's going to be debated is what performance is that? Is it just winning, or if you are constantly winning in the TV ratings, do you get some of that money too? Because you're essentially holding the league together with that TV contract. That's part of it, which seems to be splitting some hairs too when you get down to it. But it will be more money for the existing members, which, nobody is going to say no to more money, even if it's not as much as they want.
Yeah, I mean, it's, if you're complaining about money and they're offering you more money, and then you're like, oh, well, that's not enough. It's like, well, hey, we're doing the best that we can here. But I know that, for some that's not going to be enough, but maybe it's enough for right now. Not enough in the long run, but enough for right now. And that appears to be, part of the motive here, or part of the deal here is that, yeah, everybody will, or some of the teams will get a bit more money than they've been getting. And then hopefully, having, I guess, new teams a part of the fold and what all that could potentially mean leads you to sooner rather than later being able to get even more money. But it's not blow your doors down and blow your socks off and, oh wow, they're competing with the SEC and the Big Ten, cash for cash. It's not anywhere close to that. But I don't know how you close that gap. And so the ACC is trying as it can, and this is a move that would bring more money.
Number 3. Potential for future further expansion in the next wave. Look, if you do it right this time and say this actually does, one of the things that we haven't said, and it's because practicality would have you think it's going to be logistically a nightmare, but what if this does actually work out for everybody involved in a positive way, or for most people involved in a positive way?
History says otherwise.
No, yeah, but just saying that. And look, they're going to try to fight. Look, with Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, if they all eventually left, then that's going to drop them down to 15 again. They're going to have to go get more numbers, which means they'd have to expand again. So if they actually do it right and it works out at least a little ways for them, a little bit well, then maybe this gives them potential for further expansion that makes more sense down the line of teams that maybe might be closer to the region.
Yeah, I said, I think for the last couple of days that the only part of this that really makes sense is you're basically expanding before needing to expand.
Yeah.
You're replacing Florida State and Clemson, in theory, with the best available brands that might not be available if you wait longer, because where are they going to be now? Granted, maybe Stanford and Cal would be right for the picking 5 years from now as members of the Mountain West. We don't know that, but you're going ahead and adding your BYU, your Cincinnati, your Houston, and your UCF before Texas and Oklahoma leave is basically how I view this, or even proclaiming that they're going to be leaving. So if, in fact, that Florida State and Miami or some combination of schools leave, they'll, won't take a heavy hit. They won't be reduced to like 8 members like the Pac-12 had a situation. They'll be set up as though they've already countered it. So it does make sense from that perspective.
Yep. Number 2. It's a stay of execution. I mean, honestly, you get that. You don't have to worry about, what's going to happen if they do find a way out. The biggest deal was, and we'll get to this in a second, but if you drop below that 15 teams that they had, then ESPN can open things up. But this allows you to not drop below 15, especially right away, and gives you a buffer zone for 3 teams to leave if that happens. And then if you get to that 4th team that would leave, then you've got to, go start expanding again. But it gives you this, at least time to where, okay, you don't, all of a sudden it's not 4 teams leave. Not only you below 15, you're well, in a spot where it's going to be really hard to get back up. You're pretty close. You're going to stay at 15 and then you just be at 14 or maybe, and not at 11, where then it starts to get, what do we do now kind of territory.
Yeah, and somebody's eventually going to have to show how this is all going to come to an end earlier anyways, because I know we've debated and we talked about it, and we know Florida State has been very vocal and all that, but we've still seen nobody crack that code of the whole, grant of rights and broadcasts and, all of the amount of years that remain. I know that there's the private equity funds and the talk about that, but we haven't. I mean, what have we heard since then? Little to nothing. And instead of that, being the move, it's the ACC actually looking more like they're expanding and everybody else is staying put. So yeah, for now it's a stay of execution, but there will always be that. All right, is Florida State ready now to go? Are they ready now? And certainly they're going to be ready before that contract runs out.
Yep. Number 1, FSU and Clemson can't hold them hostage. So that's a big thing. If they were, right now they're at 15 teams. If you drop below, then you have to scramble and add somebody anyway. But now they can't really say, we'll do this or we'll leave. We'll just get this money together and leave. We'll just get the money together and leave. Now they can go either way. They can maybe eventually convince FSU and Clemson it's in their best interest to stay, which I think the only way that happens is if Notre Dame joins the league and you have a bunch of money rolling in that wasn't there before, which, again, no one sees happening in the near future. So
wait a minute. So if they do this and Florida State, Clemson, whoever, they get more money out of this than others, they're not going to make them sign like
a grant of rights.
They've already signed a grant of rights.
I mean, like double down on it.
What?
You're going to give somebody money knowing that they're going to walk out the back door.
Okay. Think about this. They don't have to vote for it. They can vote against it
Well,
and
they
still
are
get the
voting
money.
against it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm saying.
So
Yeah.
they can vote against it and still get the money because they're already in an agreement.
You know what the solution is? Go break that GOR and pay a few $100 million, and then you can go do whatever the hell you want to do. And you need an invite somewhere else first too. I mean, there's a lot of things that kind of have to happen.
That would be hilarious if they did that and nobody invited them.
Big
12's like
I know.
right away. Everybody would be
on line one.
Yeah.
Yep.
But no, you're right. I mean, they can rattle the cage like they have been, but for the most part, it doesn't appear like they've got great leverage. And they've lost a little bit of leverage really since the time they first spoke up, it seems like, especially if the expansion goes through. So, they're not at their mercy, but it's still definitely a situation you want to monitor and you want to keep them. To be very clear, you're not just going to wave the white flag in any way, but you're also not going to, bend over and be at their mercy at all times either.
No, absolutely not. So that's it. But again, FSU and Clemson can vote against this and still wind up making more money. They're in a really solid position as far as their income going up, just not as far as it will.
It just never ends well when you start to let. And I know it just doesn't end well when you start to let when people think they're better. And then you confirm by what you do for them that they're better. It just
if Florida State wins a national title this year, I bet we hear a lot of private equity fund talk and all that kind of.
But if they win the national title, it still doesn't mean they're going to make as much as Rutgers or Nebraska or others.
And that's the problem. And that's the problem.
Yep. Yeah. All right, Paul. Thank you so much. TexasBeefHouse.com, the sponsor of Paul's Top 5. Owen was in the studio for his only day with us today because. He
talks some noise.
Yeah, I mean, he's an intern coming in with
noise.
He's talking about them Knowles.
Yeah. Wow. Garrett Ross, thank you so much.
To Garrett, that's what he's doing.
Yeah, I know, because he's an LSU fan. That's who they open with. Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina, thank you, all of you in the text line or the chat room, our great sponsors. Again tonight, 10:30 on the CW. It is 365 Sports Tonight. I'm David Smoak, and good night.